I know that we can't prevent every tragedy, but here's what I believe we have to do. Here's what the overwhelming majority of American people believe we must do. Here's what the families in Buffalo and Uvalde in Texas told us we must do. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And if we can't ban assault weapons, then we should raise the age to purchase them from 18 to 21. Strengthen background checks. Enact safe storage law and red flag laws. Repeal the immunity that protects gun manufacturers from liability. Address the mental health crisis, deepening the trauma of gun violence and as a consequence.
You're hearing a speech from, obviously, President Biden. Good evening. Welcome to the program. Once again, it's your boy, Tim, the handsome liberal. I want you to hear about another 30 seconds of this because I'm going to ask a pretty strong, tough question. I'm not going to take it easy on you guys at all. And as always, I welcome your comments. Feel free to start out getting your boy likes up. As always, it's a MAGA-friendly program, so no one is ever at fear of being banned, blocked, or censored for their commentary. However, I want you to hear President Biden, and I'm going to ask you something straight up, and I invite you to answer in the comments, and the box will be open.
To that violence. These are rational, common sense measures. Here's what it all means. It all means this. We should reinstate the assault weapons ban on high-capacity magazines that we passed in 1994 with bipartisan support in Congress and the support of law enforcement. 9 categories of semi-automatic weapons were included in that ban, like AK-47s and AR-15s. And in the 10 years it was law, mass shootings went down. But after Republicans let the law expire in 2004, and those weapons were allowed to be sold again, mass shootings tripled. Those are the facts. A few years ago, the family of the inventor of the AR-15 said he would have been horrified to know that its design was being used to slaughter children and other innocent lives instead of being used as a military weapon on the battlefields as it was designed. That's what it was designed for. Enough. Enough. We should limit how many rounds a weapon can hold. Why, in God's name,
Magazine capacity?
Should an ordinary citizen be able to purchase an assault weapon that holds 30-round magazines that let mass shooters fire hundreds of bullets in a matter of minutes?
Okay, I see in the comments.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top story.
I see in the comments immediately. This is funny because Lockdown said, I'm buying 4. Now, the reason I'm asking this question, as you can see on the monitor behind me, I'm asking a simple question. It's a tough question, but I want to know your answer. If there was some form of a gun confiscation, not suggesting that it would ever happen, would you be willing to defend your Second Amendment rights up to and including dealing with the police in a manner of violence? It's, for instance, just like any other level of law enforcement where they're enforcing a law, if they came to confiscate your firearm, would you be willing to engage in whatever it took, whatever activity it took up to and including a shootout, to defend your Second Amendment right, to defend your purchase of an assault rifle? I'm asking that because we hear folks like Charlton Heston, for you guys who may have been around long enough to have heard his iconic statement, "From my cold, dead hands." So I'm asking that question. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight is how, to what degree, when you got the president and many others suggesting that we have some form of a assault rifles ban, to what degree would you be willing to defend your right to own assault rifles? Because right now they're not arguing in regards to taking away pistols or shotguns. It's all in regards to high-capacity long rifles. So that's the predominant argument. But I'm wondering, how far would you take it? Look it in the comments. I'll die on my feet fuck this shit, I'm done. The name is fuck this shit, I'm done. And the comment is I'll die on my feet. All of that matches, all of that measures up. But wow, you really would be willing to give up your entire life just to maintain a rifle? I don't. Okay. And here's Charlton Heston, of course, for you guys who may remember.
So, as we set out this year,
because this was also someone who was strongly in favor of maintaining his weapon.
Fighting words for everyone within the sound of my voice to hear and to heed, and especially for you, Mr. Gore.
Al Gore, he's talking to.
From my cold, dead hands.
Now, the late Charlton Heston made that statement at an NRA meeting back in the year 2000. Keep in mind, the year 2000, we're talking probably right after Columbine, but for the most part, before most of the well-known mass shootings we've had. So here is Charlton Heston in the year 2000 defending rifles and defending the Second Amendment. If only we would have known what was to come. Despite how violent the 90s were, whether we're talking about the crack cocaine epidemic or the war on drugs and gangs, what has happened in the 2000s with mass casualty events has taken things to a whole new level. And here is the predecessor for what was going on in Charlton Heston. We're going to go right to the boss, Leon Archer. Welcome to the program and good. Leon Archer, would you be willing to essentially get into a gun battle with law enforcement to preserve your right to own a long rifle?
I don't think you're going to get into no gun battle. I think you're going to get into a guerrilla warfare with them. Remember, I'm a trained soldier.
Elaborate.
Oh no, you're not gonna run up on the power head to head. But if you do that, what I'm saying is, from a guerrilla warfare standpoint, meaning like it's gonna be an all out fight. Nobody's gonna just give their weapons up like that. You know what a guerrilla insurgency do? You attack when they don't think you're gonna attack.
So what are you suggesting? If they start taking weapons, you might have Second Amendment supporters, committing terroristic acts against the police and police stations and things like that?
Yeah, if they call it terrorism, but you'll be defending your rights. That's written. Who gives them the right to take your rights? And you supposedly, I got a question for you. Would you go back into slavery freely?
No, I would not go back into slavery freely, but I guess here's the way I'm looking at it. We know the Second Amendment was put in place by the Founding Fathers. At the time the Founding Fathers created the Second Amendment to prevent, a tyrannical government or to give you the right to defend your family or the right to hunt, they had no way of knowing how far weaponry would develop. I mean, when you start talking about firearms that can fire, 6,000 rounds a minute, I think that's what an AK can do or something like that. The Founding Fathers probably did not dream of something like that. So are we to believe that you're interpreting the Second Amendment to mean you can really have access to anything?
No, I'm looking at it like this. The same people trying to limit your bullet count is the one have a serious amount of firepower protecting them. So who gives them the right? When I hear somebody say, you don't need that many bullets to hunt. Well, I don't hunt. These bullets are for human beings who decide to come kick my door in at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And I had a friend that was in the military with me. Oh man, you so military minded. He got caught up in Katrina down there. Guess what?
So let me ask you this way. If you're talking about the government has a hell of a lot of firepower and you want to make sure you can be prepared for someone kicking in your door, I mean, are you suggesting you should have anything in terms of firearms that the government has?
No, we don't have tanks. We don't have none of that. But
that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you believe that if you want to stop tyranny, you got to have what the tyrannical government has? You're not going to stop. You can't stop it. Do you believe an AR-15 or an AK-47 is all you would need to stop the tyrannical government?
in Iraq, I mean, excuse me, in Afghanistan, the Mujahideen whooped the hell out them Russian soldiers. But you got to have something in your possession. You cannot be like Ukraine, when one guy come in a whole town with a machine gun and you have nothing but butcher knife. You're in trouble. When people start, I don't understand how y'all not see this coming. The same people that wants to go after your guns are the same one to have your border wide open, which bringing
Well,
in the
I
drugs.
think I like your question, and I'll respond to it this way, because you said you don't understand how people don't see it coming.
Right.
Probably because they have too many examples of it not happening. We can point to countries where they gave up their weapons and they had to end up facing tyranny, like you're talking about, the Ukraine and some governments, like you mentioned, Afghanistan. However, there are a host of examples of countries where they gave up their firearms and that has not happened, like Australia and Japan and New Zealand and
Oh,
Norway. So when
please.
you say people can't see it coming, it's because it hasn't happened in a lot of places.
But see, what you got to understand is we are landlocked to problems. Like Mexico gonna send most of their problems to us. Australia's over there and inside of a sea by itself. When I hear somebody like Greenland trying to compare their country to our country, I laugh, because
Okay.
you can't take their country with the problem that we have. The problem is we have the same politicians who will sit up there and open the border up, let the fentanyl come through, create these problems, and then say, "Hey, gun control." Every time I see politicians, I laugh, because I'm like, here go the same people who want to solve DACA, right? But you got the border wide open. Somebody been shooting, so let me come take all y'all guns. Okay, well, when BLM was out there breaking down neighborhoods and robbing stuff and setting stuff on fire, you let me know you will police the way you want to. I want the right to be able to protect me and my family, and I don't want no
Okay,
bureaucrat in
let me
Washington
let me
trying to
let
tell
me
me what to do.
respond to something you said. You said
Come on.
that we're landlocked and Mexico would send us their problems. How would you
Yeah.
respond to someone who suggested that the reason Mexico is the way it is may have a lot to do with the United States purchasing drugs at an astronomical level, which fuels their cartel and gives their cartel more power than the government itself. If it was not for the purchasers of drugs in the United States, the
Mhm.
Mexican problem would be significantly less. How do you respond to that?
Well, my thing is, okay, the Mexican problem also, the Mexican problem comes like this. They're gonna send the drugs regardless. We could
You don't have to
some
buy them, though. You don't have to buy them.
exactly. So I don't want to see a government sitting up there that's not openly understanding what's going on and get on top of that problem. If you got people just coming in the border and you sending them all over the United States, I'm like, which team is he working for? And then he want
Okay,
me to
who's sitting?
believe.
Wait a minute. You're saying when you talk about the border, now obviously Biden's only been president for 2 years, and when Biden came along, we already had a huge, immigration problem in this country. So I'm assuming you're
Right.
not just blaming all that on Biden.
Wait a minute now. We got let's get the policies. Trump wanted a wall. Biden don't want a wall.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so come on, let's so you tell me that not having a wall, you ain't trying to defend nothing, but you'll send money somewhere else overseas to build them a wall.
Well, I don't know if you and I agree on this, because I'm suggesting that, well, first of all, I would suggest that a wall alone would not solve our problems. I'm not saying a wall wouldn't help, but when it comes to the illegal immigration problem we have, we're talking what were they saying in 2016 when Trump ran? We had 16 million immigrants in this country. You think 16 million people just walked across the desert and a wall would have stopped that?
Well, my thing is, I just want you to play the devil advocate. If you put a structure up, is it easier to get through with or without a structure? When we went inside of Iraq and first thing we did, we wanted to control the movement of the people. We put
Right,
up barriers. So
right.
from a military standpoint, this is how we are trained. This is military doctrine. So if you tell me we're just gonna put the technology up, I said, with technology, man, it's just like I got security all over my house. But guess what? It just showed me who broke in my house. If I'm not here, they can take whatever they want to.
Okay.
I can
Well,
see
the
who got it.
fact is, I went down to the border in I think 2015 or 2016 in Laredo, and I actually tried to get a video with several agents. They let me talk to them, but they wouldn't let me film it. But the point I'm trying to make is there was a wall already there before Trump came. It's not completely from point A to point B. There's openings, but there already was a wall. And what I'm saying is people have been negotiating a wall since they built it. You're not going to just be able to build a wall. You're going to have to put agents and technology on that wall. Just a wall
Exactly.
itself, they're going to break through that.
But the thing is, when I hear my so-called leaders stand up there and be against something, I want to know, why wouldn't you want to defend? If it's not a wall, then tell me what your version of the wall is. It just can't be carte blanche. Everybody come in. Oh, now, let's take the weapons away. No, never. No, you need those weapons more than you think. This is not something I walk around with every day. But if it falls apart, I don't want to have to call nobody to defend myself.
So how do you feel? So what is your response to all of the mass casualty events we're having in this country because of the weapons? How do you feel about that?
Last time we talked, I told you, we building soft ass people for a hard world. It's a mental illness.
Hey, are you suggesting that if people were harder, mass casualty events wouldn't happen?
Wait a minute, I can take it all the way back like this, fast as I can get there. Understand this. They have been building these people that we see today for a long time. Don't discipline them. Don't spank them. Don't do nothing to them. And look what we have right now. The teachers can't teach. The police cannot arrest you. They fighting police like I've never seen before. You think these people are not mentally ill?
I get you. I understand what you're saying, because I grew up on getting my ass kicked and stuff like that too. My dad was a Marine. I understand you, but I'm asking the question. So you're suggesting that if people were properly disciplined as a child, physically, like you and I probably were, getting our asses physically kicked, you're saying that mass casualty events wouldn't be happening at this rate?
This world is being tampered with, and we are getting the results of that tampering. When I see boys don't know if they boys, and where's all this mental illness coming from?
Okay, I get your point.
I'm looking at all this mental illness, and it's like, oh, let me take your gun. Why you coming trying to affect me? I'm looking at all of it, and I'm like, no, I'm not following that now. I see what y'all got going on. You the one, the government came in, oh, don't spank your child. And you know how that worked in the black community. Yeah. I don't believe in whooping no child. I believe in you look at him and you see what he or she needs. You're not going to go to school and beat the teacher up on my watch. If a police is talking to you, you finna be still, you finna look him in the eye, you finna say, yes, sir, no, sir, and he's in charge of this scene. Let's go. It's just that simple. I don't see these types of people. And last but not least, that guy that went in Walmart and said somebody was marking him and shot all those people. What kind of coward is that? I mean,
well, you do understand, during the age where you're talking about where men were men and we got spanked by our children, they did the same thing to Emmett Till. They literally killed that guy for very similar reasons. He whistled at somebody and they went and murdered him. So I just want to point out that happened in those previous eras as well.
What do you mean? That I don't get it. I'm lost.
You said you're talking about how soft the guy in Walmart was, because he went out and committed murder because things weren't going his way. He thought people were mocking him. That's the exact reason they killed Emmett Till, is because he allegedly was mocking a white woman. They killed him for the same damn reason, is what I'm saying. During the time when you're saying men were men and you could spank your child.
There's no way that analogy flies way over my head. I come out of it. You talking about a racist man that, like my great aunt, when she died, she was 97. She explained these things. I'm only 57. I did not see them, but she said, boy, back in the day, when we walked down the street, it could be muddy. You know, the little crates they put on the sidewalk because it wasn't real concrete. She said, if the white family was coming, you got in the mud. So what happened to Emmett Till was just sheer disrespect of black people as humans.
Okay. All right. Could we not say what happened in Walmart was sheer disrespect of coworkers?
No, I mean, but the idea he said, they're marking him. and you think in your mind, your brain is that weak that somebody said something to you. Oh, this is all this safe space. Oh, you can't say nothing.
But I don't see how you don't see the comparison. You're talking about he's mocking a white woman. It's the same logic. I understand you want to throw the racial argument out of it. That's fine, but it's
Okay,
based on the
okay.
same premise. Somebody
But I
did something you did not like, and you decided to take their life. It's the same argument.
well, I'm gonna say if Emmett Till was white, you think that would have happened?
No.
Okay, that's the only point I'm gonna get. That's the only
Okay.
thing I'm gonna put on him. If he was white, if he's a white kid, no, that wouldn't have happened. And besides, if I'm disciplining my grandkids, which I'm softer on the grandkids than the kids, but no, I don't. I'm not trying to beat them to death.
Okay.
I'm trying to teach them. I'm more like a professor to them now. I'm like, look, and I'm getting a sheet of paper and say this happened, and they're like, oh, okay, Papa, I see. I just want them to see what I'm saying.
Fair enough. All right, Leon, I got to move it on. You know how we do
Okay.
it. I always appreciate you coming through, man. Anytime, come on back through.
All right. Have a
Good
good one.
talk. Good. All right. And let me just say real quick in regards to my last caller. I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. My dad was a Marine straight out of Vietnam, and yeah, he kicked our ass as well. So what the previous caller was saying does not fall on deaf ears. I might be a liberal, but at the end of the day, I do believe there is a greater responsibility. I think a better outcome when your children know that you can discipline them. And I believe the new methods of discipline. I mean, I may not be liked for saying this, but I don't believe they are as effective as what our parents did to us. I just don't. I mean, sending a kid to his room or you can't play with your toys. I don't think that has the same amount of weight as a good old fashioned ass whooping. But that's my take, and you are invited. You're invited anytime to disagree with me. But I do believe a good old fashioned ass whooping had a lot more effect on the mindset of a child doing wrong. So me and Leon, the previous caller, we absolutely agree with that. And good talk. All right, going back to the box, Eddie current testing one. What a hell of a name. We're talking about would you be willing to put your life on the line to defend your Second Amendment rights? Eddie, good evening.
Hey,
Eddie,
we've talked before.
yes, good evening. So
Yeah, Eddie.
you see the question behind me. Would you be willing to literally put your life on the line to defend your Second Amendment rights?
No way, because that's not what the Second Amendment says.
Okay, elaborate. What do you mean?
Everybody gets it wrong. The Second
Okay,
Amendment
tell me.
doesn't. Well, the Second Amendment doesn't. The Second Amendment doesn't guarantee anybody the right to own arms. It specifically states a regulated militia. That's
Okay,
it's
I really
been
want
cheated
to
and
hear what you're
lied
saying.
and
You're
stolen,
breaking up a
and they
little
only
bit.
reach.
You're breaking up. Although I really want to hear what you're saying. I'll let you repeat what you said. I'll
Okay,
give it a
yeah,
second
it'll
chance,
probably
but you're in a bad area. Go ahead. Okay, unfortunately, Eddie looks like his signal is out. So I do want to hear what he had to say. So if he comes back on,
it says.
yeah, I got to drop him. Unfortunately, Eddie, if you are still listening, your signal was so bad I had to drop you. But I am very interested in hearing your description on that. So come on back in the box. I'll certainly put you back on. Jeff, 4. We'll keep the program moving. Are you willing to lay your life on the line to defend your Second Amendment rights? And before answering the question completely, Jeff, and welcome to the program. As opposed to laying your life on the line to defend your Second Amendment rights, what if it was just a ban of assault weapons, long rifles, AR-15, AK-47, SKS? You know what I'm talking about. If they were to ban just those weapons alone, and you could still own a pistol or a shotgun, but you happen to be in possession of one of those weapons, would you be willing to lay your life on the line to keep your long rifle?
Me,
Jeff,
honestly,
yes,
I'm more of a constitutional. I'm more of a yeah. Can you hear
go
me?
ahead. Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. All right. See me, I'm more of a constitutionalist than either a Republican or a liberal. Okay. So when our forefathers wrote that Constitution, they said
Mm-hmm.
that we have the right to a well-regulated militia, and our rights to bear arms shall not be infringed. Correct?
Okay.
Okay. Now, now with that being said, anybody that comes in my house and tries to take something that I was given by my nation, which is the right to bear arms. It's not only a well-regulated militia; it's the right to
Well,
bear arms. They didn't
define.
state you can
Give me
only
your
have
definition. What is a well-regulated militia? Give me your definition of that.
a well-regulated militia. To me, is a group or organization that is well trained, that knows how to use the weapons that they need to protect themselves from a tyrannical government.
Is that what the average 2A supporting citizen in America is? Someone who knows is trained on how to use their weapon. How many American citizens own firearms that they've had no training on? I mean, when you say well-regulated militia, you're talking about people who know how to use the
Well,
weapons they own. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, the majority of people that have weapons, they know how to use them. I mean, I understand that there are people that do not know their ass from a hole in the ground that couldn't shoot at anything and hit it. I get that, but look, this isn't like they should have been more descriptive when they wrote this. They just said dumbasses can't have guns, and I get that, you know. But what they said is that a well-regulated militia and your rights to bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so they didn't say that you can only have a pistol. They didn't say that you can't have assault weapons. They didn't say that you can't have a damn tank, because all of it is, you know, a weapon. And there's people before all this
So
bullshit
I
started
have to
happening where they
ask you
started taking
then.
people.
Okay. Well, based on what you're saying, you say a tank and all of this is a weapon. So I would have to ask you, in regards to having a well-regulated militia and being able to stave off a tyrannical government, would you be in favor of citizens owning anthrax or ricin or mustard gas? Because those are weapons too.
It's not even the you know damn well that's not even the same argument.
How not? Wait a minute. I'll give you plenty of time to talk. But think of Saddam Hussein. When we went into Iraq, George W. Bush said he is using, he's killing his own people and he was using mustard gas. Saddam Hussein was a perfect example of a tyrannical government taking over its people using biological weapons. So I'm asking you, as a citizen, to fight against someone like Saddam Hussein. Should you be able to have biological weapons because that's what he used on the people?
No government should use biological weapons against their people. But
But they
that's
will.
not our problem as Americans. I understand that, but is that America's problem?
Well, tyranny is not America's problem.
Tyranny is America's problem because we have a tyrannical government right now, and you can't tell me that we don't.
Explain.
Explain?
Tell me,
Okay.
when did the okay?
Okay.
Here's a better question. When did the tyranny begin?
Well, the tyranny has begun since the 40s, when they started doing everything, when banks started owning America, when they sold our country to the banks in Europe.
Year. What year did this start happening?
When we were no, I do believe it was 1946.
So we've been in tyranny for over 60 straight years.
Well, yes, but okay, I've done a lot of research on this lately because I wanted to know what I was talking about. I am not a like a professional journalist or anything, but there are things that I've heard and seen, like proper paperwork that says like what I'm talking about. And do you remember hearing our country? We used to be a republic. Do you remember that?
I hear people say all the time that we're no longer a republic. I don't get what they mean by that, but maybe you could help me out.
Well, I'm not a specialist on this, but a republic is like when our Constitution was written, we were the Republic of the United States of America. Okay, in 1946, when we were sold to the bank, I can't even remember the bank. It had something to do with like J.P. Morgan and all this other stuff. But anyway, we're getting off topic a little bit.
What exactly is tyranny to you? What is okay? You're saying we've been under a tyrannical government since the 40s. What exactly is tyranny to you?
Well, tyranny to any American is when they start infringing on your rights, like when they start censoring you, when they start doing like when they tax us. How many times do they tax us on the things that we buy?
Oh shit, quite often.
They tax exactly. They tax it when they buy from other countries. They tax us when it comes in. They tax us when they put it in stores, and then they tax us when we buy it.
But can't you vote that out?
I mean,
Can't you just vote a politician that's not going to do that?
oh, we can vote a politician that says he's not going to do that, but how many don't do that?
Okay.
I've never heard of one.
Okay, here's the problem I have with your definition of tyranny. I mean, I hate to come out with so bluntly and say this, but I'm black. So 1940 doesn't even begin. If you think what happened in 1940 is tyranny, you need to see it from my level. I would submit to you if you're talking about tyranny, even though the founding fathers gave us the Second Amendment rights as a way to stave off tyranny, I would submit that it's a bullshit logic for anybody to think having a gun is going to stop a tyrannical government. Because I will tell you, when we became a nation in 1776, how long did it take for, whether we're talking blacks or Hispanics or gays or women, the right to vote? How long did it take all of these different groups? How long did it take them to acquire freedom? So my point I'm trying to make is we've been tyrannical right alongside the Second Amendment for most of our history. From the very beginning, you've always had a right to own a gun, and this country has been tyrannical from day one to every group that I just named. So I totally disagree that owning a firearm is going to prevent tyranny, because we're a living example that it can happen.
Okay, can I say something now? Listen to this.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
Say you have 47 people in a room, right? And there is a person like the guy at Walmart, and he has a gun. He wants to unleash and kill somebody, but he knows that there's a possibility that there is people in that facility that have a weapon, or maybe they have a sidearm, maybe they have a long rifle in their locker or something. No matter what. Okay, what I'm saying is that a weapon is going to deter a criminal. And I'm not using this as my full fighting.
Then why do so many police get shot if a weapon is going to deter a criminal?
Because they're criminals. They're not going to follow the law whether or not our guns are banned. If they want a gun, they're going to go out and get it. They're a criminal. They're going to find a way to get that gun.
No. That ain't what you said. If a guy goes into Walmart wanting to commit an act of terror, if he knows that the people in Walmart has a firearm, that might make him think otherwise. And I'm saying that people take shots at cops who all have weapons, and it does not deter them. So the point I'm trying to make is that guns do not deter crime, because the police are a perfect example. People shoot at cops all the time.
Yes, I get that.
Okay. People rob armored car guards all the time. I'm talking about people they know are armed. You even have people rob gun stores. I mean, so I'm just simply saying having a firearm gives you the ability to defend yourself, but it won't deter people from robbing you.
So you don't think that ever, not in one situation, it has ever deterred a criminal?
No, I think it's deterred criminals, but I also think it provokes criminals. How many open carriers have had people snatch their weapons off of them or pull a gun out on them to take their weapon? It deters some crime and it provokes others.
Okay, but like say that there's a criminal that has a gun, an illegal gun.
Okay.
There's a group of people, and there's a group of people, great people, church law-abiding citizens, and they get shot up and they have no way to protect themselves. If one of those people had a gun, they could possibly take out that person and save a lot of lives.
That's true, but there are also times when I'm going to give you a counter argument. If it makes me sound stupid, feel free to say that. But there are plenty of times where a person was going to rob someone or take something from them, and the person who was going to be victimized pulled out a gun and actually forced the person who was going to simply rob them and take off to kill them. I'm just simply saying pulling out a gun does not always turn things to your advantage. Sometimes it causes you to get killed when you
No,
may have not died.
it very well could.
Yeah.
But I can tell you one thing: if my family's with me and there's a guy with a gun trying to kill people, I want that gun because I want to have the chance to be able to protect my family.
So
Can
do
you
I.
agree with that?
100%. And I agree. I don't disagree with what you're saying here. I'm just simply saying the notion that having good guys with guns are somehow going to make crime go down, or what is the saying? An armed society is a polite society. I'm just saying that's not true, and there's plenty of evidence. It just here's my take. If everybody is armed, all it does is teaches the criminals that if you're going to do this, you got to be prepared to shoot someone. Just like when a person takes on a police officer or they take on an armored car guard or they rob a bank, they go in prepared to shoot because now I know you have a firearm. So it just makes the criminal step up to a higher level. What do they say about the Second Amendment? If you ban guns, criminals will find another way. Well, if you give
Yeah.
everybody guns, criminals will also find another way.
I have a solution for all that.
Sure.
I think that
What's your
instead of
solution?
banning these guns, what they should do is every citizen that owns a gun prior to their law or not should undergo training, like a 3-week course on how to manage the weapon, how to use it properly, how to clean it, how to do everything with that weapon. Learn it
I
from the
like that.
top to the bottom.
I
And
like
that's what I
that.
think
But
it should.
I like that. But I'm gonna ask you one question. I love that suggestion. But one question: should that be mandatory or should it be optional?
What the training?
Yes.
I think that everyone that owns a gun, even the people that have guns prior to the law, I think that everyone should undergo the training. I mean, if you think about it, any
Mandatory
law-abiding
or
citizen,
optional? Mandatory or optional?
okay, as an option to instead of taking the assault weapons, I think it should be mandatory.
Okay. And we're getting somewhere. But the problem is that is infringement. If I want to buy an assault rifle and I don't feel like going out to get training, and you tell me, well, I can't have it unless I get training, that the founding fathers didn't say anything about training. They're going to say now you're infringing on my rights by passing a gun law that says I got to have training first.
Well, see, the thing is that this government, whether or not we like it, they will take our weapons. They will find a way to get our weapons. There is going to be some type of war or some kind of conflict where something like that is going to happen, especially the route that we're going right now, the way this nation is heading right now. They are going to take it. If we come up with a counter and we say, okay, fine, we're gonna do this together. We're gonna come together as a nation and we're gonna make this law where we have to have every citizen that is a law-abiding citizen that owns a weapon. We have to give them training in order to make a safe society for everyone. You do not have to give up your weapon, but you do have to do this. And if you don't do this, then you have to give up your weapon. Does that make sense?
That's why I like doing this shit, because when you talk long enough, you come up with a solution that we both could agree with, and I agree with that 100%. However, I'm going to ask that folks on your side of the aisle not be so rigid with the statement of, well, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Because the people who believe if you give the liberals an inch, they'll take a mile, they're going to disagree with what you propose, because they're going to say, well, if you mandate training, next they're going to do this or they're going to do that, and that's what we've been dealing with, and that's what's literally prevented any sort of leeway from happening, is because they believe if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So we're gonna block everything. I gotta part ways with you, but I think we agree with that last point.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Good talk, Jeff. Hey, come on back. Good talk. All right. In the comments, they still haven't taken any guns yet. No, and they haven't. I'll go right back to the box. No, you're correct. They have not taken any guns. But there is no denying, even as a liberal, I'm not going to pretend like they aren't trying. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like you didn't hear. I'll play this for you because this is one you've probably heard before.
The high impact, high velocity round, when it hits your body, shreds everything inside of your body because it was designed to do that so that you would bleed to death on a battlefield and not be able to get up and kill one of our soldiers. When we see that being used against children, and in Odessa, I met the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
And many would argue that's what destroyed any chance of him ever having a political career in Texas. Going back to the box. That was Beto O'Rourke, by the way. Old Bill 7. Old Bill. And Eddie, I see you in there. I just noticed you were in there, Eddie. I'll go to you. Old Bill, good afternoon or good evening. Can you hear me, Old Bill? Okay, I don't know if I don't know if it's on my side or what, but Old Bill, are you there? Okay.
Man,
For some
I don't know
reason.
what happened.
Okay, can you hear me now? Old Bill.
What did I hit? You'll connect using audio.
Okay. Obviously, we got a problem. Old Bill, if you can hear me, try it again. The worst things I have learned have been because of talk about banning firearms. What have you learned? Crack Pipes for Racial Equity, a friend of the program. Good to see you back. Haven't seen Crack Pipes in the comments for a while. What have you learned in terms of the worst things you have ever learned is because of the talk of banning firearms? Have you learned somebody wanted to commit a mass casualty event to prevent the Second Amendment from being taken away? Eddie Current, 101. Let's try this again. We had trouble with your signal last time. Eddie, can you hear me?
Hey.
Okay, there we go. We're back now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm not on the major interstate now. No more hills.
Okay, good. All right. Defending the Second Amendment with your life. But we're talking about long rifles, not pistols, not shotguns. If you owned a long rifle and the government was trying to confiscate it, would you be willing to lay your life on the line to maintain possession of that rifle?
Well, an assault rifle, no, I would not. Now, a hunting rifle, that's a different thing.
Okay. And I understand that the term assault rifle has been thrown around. I got people in the comments even asking, well, what the hell is an assault rifle? I would tell you to pass that question on to the gun makers who were the ones who coined that term back in the 1980s when they were trying to sell the weapons. But so you're saying a hunting rifle, yes.
Well, I mean, a man has the right to feed his family if he happens to live out in the country, okay?
Right. What if he lives in Manhattan, in the middle of an urban area like Chicago or something? Does he need that same rifle? Okay, Eddie?
Is there some kind of echo going on?
I don't know. For some reason, it seems like there's a delay between you and me. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your point.
What I was saying earlier is the Second Amendment doesn't guarantee anybody the right to own a weapon. It's been just seriously overread. It's got a clause. It's got a comma. So, I mean,
Okay.
a comma. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with people owning guns. But nobody needs a rifle that can shoot off 80 rounds or 50 rounds or whatever it may be.
That's what Joe Biden is saying also. But what about folks who believe that that's the way the founding fathers intended for you to be able to have whatever the government has to prevent tyranny?
Well, I think this is what I do. It's kind of stupid because, I know we're not supposed to, our military is not supposed to go against anybody in the United States, but if everybody in the United States rose up against the federal government, I'm sure they're going to call up the military and say, oh, well, hell no, we're going to pull out our planes and our tanks and our subs. And
Okay. I'm gonna have to move it on, Eddie. Unfortunately, we still
Yeah,
got signal
that
problems there.
echo.
Yeah, we still got problems. I wanna show you guys something just from a real quick Google search, because this is something I want to show you because it comes up often to point out liberal firearm ignorance. And it is, and I've seen it in the comments here, for instance, today. And that question is, what is an assault rifle? Meaning that liberals have no clue what the hell guns are, and they call every damn thing an assault rifle. And some would argue there is no such thing as an assault rifle. So where did the term assault rifle come from? I'm going to show you magazine covers. I mean, I can literally show you hundreds of these with a quick Google search, in which they are showing this is a magazine cover. As you can see, there is a weapon on there, and you see the title. It's clearly saying assault rifle, the new breed of sporting arms. And if you if you go on Google and type in assault rifle magazine cover, you will get literally hundreds of magazine covers in which they are referring to these weapons as assault rifles. So for any of you folks who think that liberals are ignorant, they don't know what the hell an assault rifle is, or an assault rifle does not exist, I would ask you to pass that question on to the makers of these guns and these magazines, because this is where we got it from. They're putting it on the front of their magazines, calling them assault weapons. So it's not liberals doing this. This is what they were calling the weapons themselves. And some of these magazines are very popular magazines. So I just want to let you guys know that this didn't come from liberals. NGA Brew comment, Tim, please Google who first used the term. As far as I'm concerned, NGA, it doesn't matter who first used the term. If it's on the front of very popular magazine covers that obviously gun owners read, buy, and support, then as far as we're concerned, it's certainly not just liberals doing this. And it doesn't make liberals look ignorant anymore, because it shows that the people who sold these guns, who promoted these guns, were calling them assault weapons. Now, if for some reason they changed the term in 2022, and you want to suggest that the liberals are ignorant because they didn't catch up with the new term, the new pronoun, if you know what I mean, then do that. But make no mistake about it, there was a time in U.S. history where those weapons were called assault rifles, assault weapons. And that's why people are calling them assault weapons. It's not ignorant liberals. It is what the gun makers were calling them themselves. All right, looking in the comments, Flip Stock. Let's try this again. Flip Stock. Good evening and welcome to the program. Let me see if my audio is working. Maybe I got a problem here. Can you hear me, Flip Stock?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, fair enough. Would you be willing to lay down your life to maintain possession of a weapon like what is featured here on the screen?
Yes.
Why? If you could own a pistol or a shotgun?
Well, I guess I'm going to flip that back to you, and you explain to me why that weapon's so dangerous compared to other weapons that are semi-automatic, which makes up almost every type of modern gun.
What about accuracy, rate of fire?
Rate of fire is the same for any semi-automatic gun. I could shoot a 9mm pistol just as fast as I can shoot an AR-15. They're both semi-automatic.
Accuracy?
Well, accuracy, I mean, obviously a rifle is going to be more accurate than a pistol because the barrel's longer.
Yeah. Power?
It's a 223. That's actually a very low-powered rifle. There's a lot more high-powered rifles than an AR-15. AR-15 is considered very low power. A 223 is a 22 round, one of the smallest rounds.
Okay, so why is it that, I mean, because what is the military? What is the M16? What are all the differences between an M16 and AR-15? I know there's full auto.
So an M16 is what modernly now is an M4, right? So the M4 is more just the body style, shorter barrel. So identically looks the same as an AR-15. No difference in the way it looks. The key difference is in functionality. I could go to 3-burst or fully auto with an M4. I cannot do that with an AR-15. An AR-15
So let me ask you this. let me ask you this: other than going from full auto versus this weapon being semi-auto, what are the other differences between what the military carries and an AR-15?
Well, there's not. I mean, they're the same body style, but that's the whole
Okay.
functionality of the gun is you can
So
go
if
fully
this
auto with it.
weapon, yeah, so if the AR-15 is because at first you were saying why ban this because you can do this and that with a pistol. If a pistol is just as equipped, then why is the military specifically choosing M16s or weapons like? Why are they specifically choosing this weapon if it's no better than a pistol or some of these other guns?
Well, I mean, they don't. I mean, the military has a lot of different weapons. I mean, they carry saws and everything else that are different types of weapons that they use. So, I mean, that's one that they will issue a lot because it's easy to shoot and it's lightweight. So, I mean, you ideally when you're on a battlefield, you can carry more ammo the smaller a round is. So you can carry a higher capacity. You could carry, 200 rounds instead of maybe 100 rounds
Okay.
because of weight of ammunition. It's cheaper. 5.56 is going to be a lot cheaper than giving everybody a 50 cal.
Yeah, but if you went into, say, an environment to commit a mass casualty event and people were scattering at the sound of gunfire and things like that, which one do you believe would be more effective to have? Something like what's pictured here or a 9mm Glock? You're on mute. You went to mute, Flipstop.
Sorry
You
about
went, okay.
that. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm asking if you're in an environment where there's a lot of soft targets, and at the first shot they're scattering, and you're trying to get as many people as possible, which would be the better choice? Something like what is pictured here, or a 9mm handgun?
Well, I guess that depends, right? Because if I was in Times Square, right, I'm not getting into Times Square carrying an AR-15. I can't conceal that where I can conceal a 9mm. If I'm in a building, I'd rather have the 9mm because at close range, somebody's going to be able to grab that barrel and I'm not going to get on target as fast. If I'm more out in an open area, say where I could get the weapon in, then yeah, the AR-15 would be a better choice. But tactically, it depends on the environment that you're in.
If you can get the weapon into the environment, which would be better to choose?
In an open outdoor area, the
Yeah.
AR-15.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking that is because it seems like when it comes to these mass casualty events, more often than not, people are choosing this firearm. Now, if you want to suggest that the a handgun is just as deadly, say for instance what happened at Walmart or Virginia Tech, which proved a handgun can be pretty damn deadly. The reason these firearms are getting so much attention is because people keep using them to commit crimes. No different
Well,
than
but
if you were. Go ahead.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but so I mean, if you're going to go by stats, though, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the most popular weapon that people are killed by in the United States is a blunt object. That is hands down every year the most popular weapon that's killed. The second, if you want to go to guns, more people are killed by handguns than rifles by a far shot. I mean, you can look on the FBI data site for that information. That's by a long shot more people are killed by handguns
Right.
than rifles every year. But going back to the military thing, you said, well, the military carries something that looks the same, right? But I could go buy the exact same pistol that the military carries with the same functionality. And we don't, why are we not concerned that I can buy the same pistol that the military carries then?
Well, first of all, in regards to your comment about people being taken out by handguns more than long rifles, I do believe that it's true. However, it's very similar to suggesting that more people die by car accident than by planes. And so why focus more on planes when most people are dying by car crashes? It's because a plane crash is horrific. And that is the difference is because what's happening with these weapons is essentially like a plane crash as opposed to what now you may have a car crash occasionally where a whole bunch of people die. But usually when it comes to a car crash, it's just a person or two. When it comes to a plane crash, it's lots of people. Same thing with this type of weapon. For some reason, when these type of homicides take place, it's like a plane crash. That is why people are focusing more on these than the handgun deaths you're talking about.
Well, I mean, but you can put that in the same scenario. So, I mean, the reason that you see an AR-15 used when a rifle is used is because an AR-15 is the most popular selling rifle in the United States. Now, you could
Okay.
say a Honda Civic's the most popular selling car, and I bet you if you were to look at the statistics, the majority of car accidents would be a Honda Civic then, because it's the most popular selling one. So if something obviously the most popular selling, it doesn't mean that it's the most dangerous.
Yeah,
It
but
just
people
means
are
that,
not buying Honda Civics to go run people over. The purpose of a gun is to
well,
kill.
how many incidences we have that people plowed into crowds with cars in the last few years? We had one
Are they
right in New
doing it
York
in
City.
Honda Civics? Are they doing it with Civics?
No, a van or whatever, but
Well, but you get my point is that people are purchasing this weapon specifically to go out and do this kind of stuff.
so
And that's
one
the reason why it's getting attention.
So one thing I did want to address, because you guys were talking earlier about a democracy and a republic. So the United States is a republic, or supposed to be a republic, and there's a significant difference, right?
Okay.
So a republic protects the right of individuals against the majority. And that's important, right? Because you might not say, well, not a big deal, right? Well, what if, I
Okay.
mean, so white people make up the majority of this country, right? What if white people decide they want to bring slavery back because it benefits them? That's what a republic protects. It protects individual rights against the majority.
When
And
did we
that's why
become a
we are a
republic?
republic.
When did we become a republic?
We've been a republic since this country was founded.
Well, white people were founded doing that. So I don't know how it could be a republic because when it was founded, white people were doing exactly what
But
you're talking about.
what happened though? They put an amendment in to protect against that, right? To protect against those individual rights.
Yeah,
That
and,
people shouldn't
when
be
they put
slaves.
the amendment in, to protect against those individual rights, they just found a different way to keep doing it.
What do you mean? Are you talking about like the prison system?
I'm talking about going from ending slavery to Jim Crow to the war on drugs. I mean, they just find a different way to do it.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. I mean, that's a whole different debate,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, but that it still doesn't mean that shouldn't be happening in society. Just like we shouldn't take, you know, a lot of the argument is that I hear from people is why do you need that? Well, why do you need freedom of speech? Why do you need to be able to get on TikTok and talk? Why do you need to be able to get on Facebook and talk? You don't have to have a need to exercise a right. A right you could just want to exercise. There's no need to
Then,
exercise a
but
right.
I get what you're saying, but so what do we do about the fact that so many people are dying because of this, right? Do we just ignore the mass casualty events because we want to have the Second Amendment? People are dying in ridiculous numbers. I mean, do you do nothing about that?
I mean, they're not. I mean, not from a rifle standpoint. People aren't dying in ridiculous numbers. It actually makes a very small percent. I mean, so if you want to address crime like gun violence, then you need to get hard on gun laws that are the illegal guns, and the guns being
It's not
shipped
going to
across the
stop. Yeah,
border.
but I hear that all the time. And when you look at the mass casualty events we're talking about, whether it's Uvalde, Buffalo, the guy in Highland Park, what just happened the other day, and well, all of these guns were purchased legally. All of the laws on the books would not have stopped any of those folks. Every one of them, Sandy Hook, Columbine, all of those people were buying those guns legally.
So do you surrender people's rights because people are doing things
I'm
illegally? So
asking, and
do we
that's the
stop?
question I'm asking you is that if we keep the Second Amendment going, do we just accept that this is going to keep happening? Because these people are buying guns legally to do this stuff.
Right, but the media also skews the perception of everybody because when one of these events happen, we run it on every media station. We make sure because we have an agenda behind it, right? I mean, how come we don't talk about what is it?
Yeah, but
In the
if
city
you
of
go out and
Chicago?
murder, yeah, but if
But
you
in the
go out and
city of
murder 50,
Chicago, 12
hold on.
people or so are murdered every night by gun violence, but you don't ever see that on the news.
No, you're not going to see that in the news because in my opinion, and I'm from Chicago, most of the people being murdered in Chicago is bad guys killing bad guys. Nobody gives a shit about that. If one drug dealer goes to rob another drug dealer and he kills that guy, nobody cares about that as much. Whereas with mass
Still gun
casualty,
violence though.
hang on.
It's still gun
With mass casualty events, we're talking about innocent kids, people just going to work, just going to church. That's going to get more coverage than a drug dealer killing another drug dealer.
So let me ask you a question then, right? So say we ban AR-15s tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
Is that what you'd like to see? Like those banned? Is that something you'd like to see?
It happened in the Clinton administration during the Clinton era, and from what they show on the statistics, murders went down. So yeah, I would go with it.
So if we ban those tomorrow, right? You're
Okay.
gonna make how many ever people in this point criminals because people aren't going to turn them in. They're just not going to. They try gun buybacks all the time and they don't work.
Let me I'll let you continue, but let me interrupt you by saying this.
No, go
If
ahead.
I was to do what you just suggested, let's say I was in charge, president,
Mhm.
liberal. I would be okay with the ban. However, I would state that anybody who currently owned an AR-15, you're grandfathered in and you can keep your weapon. And the reason I'm saying that is because once I do that, the weapons that are out there will skyrocket in value because the only way you can sell them is on the black market, first of all. But those weapons will become of such a great value that you're not going to have people going out and using those weapons to do $5 robberies. I mean, now you got a gun that's worth $10,000, $15,000. A lot of them are going to go sell that shit. I mean, now, is everybody going to give away their gun? Hell no. Some people like Charlton Heston from my cold dead hands. But if your AR was suddenly worth 10 to 15 times the value of what you paid for it, there's a lot of people who are hurting for cash that would sell that. So, yeah, I would say you can keep your weapon if you own one already.
But that doesn't get them off. That doesn't get them off the market. Then people are still
It
owning the guns.
does. Yeah, it does because a lot of people are going to sell them if they're worth that much. They're
But
going to
then it's
sell
going to
them
go to
back
some.
to.
But then it's going to go to somebody else, right? So somebody
Well, you
else
can
is
have a
just going to own it. So
buyback.
the
You
gun's
can have
still
a
exist.
buyback. You can have a buyback.
And then you take in. I mean, so think about it. I mean, the government doesn't know who owns an AR-15. There's no tracking
No,
for that.
they don't.
So
I'm
so
fine with that.
and then you could 3D print one too. But I mean, the bigger picture is, and I don't know your background. Like, have you ever served in the military? Are you a police officer or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So I served in the military for 12 years, and so who are you going to ask now to go door to door and stack up on people's door and go in to see if they have AR-15s? You're going to ask the police officers to do that? I mean,
No.
who are you going to ask to stack up on their neighbors' doors and breach to go take these guns?
And that I do agree would be dangerous as hell, which is why I suggested if I was in charge, if I had the power, I wouldn't confiscate anybody's weapon. I would just let them disappear by attrition. And that being that the value of them is so great that people you would instantly reduce a lot of them just because they would shoot up in value. And then of course you're going to have a few people using theirs in crimes and having the police seize them. I mean, because the police take a hell of a lot of guns off the street every day anyway. But plain and simple, just let the people who own them keep them. And they'll, like I said, they'll go up in value so greatly that a lot of people are going to get rid of them because now they're starting to become collector's items and things like that. So before you know it, you may have one millionaire that's got 20, 30 of them, but the regular guy who's living off of $50,000, $60,000 a year, he's going to sell that shit. I mean, I
So
can go and buy me a 9mm or something else to protect my home, but if this gun's worth 50 grand, I'm selling it.
Oh, and I agree with you. An AR-15 is not a good home defense weapon. I mean, a shotgun is the best home defense weapon. I mean, I wouldn't think to go use an AR-15 for home defense. I mean, but and I'll just talk from experience on gun laws because I live in New York State, which I don't know if you know much about New York State, but New York State has some
Yeah.
of the strictest gun laws in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't work. They don't work. They plain and simple don't work. So they're based off of looks, so the AR-15, their law is based off of looks, and I would be more with gun laws if they were based off of something that made sense, like functionality. But you could buy the same gun that an AR-15 is with a wooden stock that looks a little bit different. That's legal and has the exact same functionality as an AR-15 in New York.
So you're saying the tough gun laws in New York. I gotta move it on, but I'll give you the last word. But you're saying the
Yeah.
tough gun laws in places like Chicago and New York doesn't work. But what about in places like Texas and Florida where you can easily get a gun? Are you saying that in areas where a citizen can easily get a gun, gun deaths are lower?
So where they can easily, I mean, statistically, yeah, they show these places that where gun laws are looser, that crime's down. Because I mean, just think about it. If you're going to carjack me, I'm a soft target in an area where guns aren't allowed. If I'm in Texas and you go to carjack me, I might be strapped with a 357. I mean, criminals look for soft targets. That's why women are typically targeted in crime.
Yeah.
Criminals don't look for resistance; they look for something easy.
Well, I want to show you something because before the show, I kind of expected that to come up before I let you go. Here is a map of the United States. If I can zoom in on it, if you see it on my monitor, this map shows the states with the highest amount of gun deaths per 100,000 citizens. The darker the red, the more gun deaths. Now, this is the CDC. So when you ask what the source is, the Center for Disease Control. This shows the states with the highest gun deaths per 100,000. Now, obviously, when we're talking about states, that's not a city like Chicago or New York City or Los Angeles. It's the whole state.
Right.
But if you notice, the states with the highest amount of gun deaths per 100,000 are states where you have no problem getting a gun.
Yeah. So one thing, and I know you got to move on. So I'll just close out one thing. One thing I would say when you look at gun deaths, so you have to take out suicides because when they show numbers, a lot of times they put suicides in there, and especially with school shootings. When you see like a map of school shootings, normally they're including that a shooting that happened near the school. They're including a shooting that the school resource officer did. So sometimes these numbers are skewed. So you have to really look at the data a lot of times behind it. And I'm looking at a map. I have no idea what's behind that data, so I'm not going to comment on it because
All right, fair enough.
I'm not going to say something I don't know because I just don't know the data behind it. But no, it's good talking to you. You seem like a pretty sensible person and somebody who would be in the middle on stuff. So I appreciate that.
Come on back anytime, man. You know how to do it. Appreciate you coming through. All right, good talk. All right, moving on. Looking in the comment section. Tim is slick. He won't focus in on the blue cities with the highest gun crime, says NGA. Well, if we're going to talk about gun crimes in this country, and we're only going to focus in on cities and ignore the states, I don't get how that is dealing with the entire equation. I mean, because when you really think about it, most of the gun crimes happen in this country in bigger cities. That's where the people are. I mean, do you really expect Montana to have a hell of a lot of urban crime? There's nobody there. So if you want to do it from that aspect, however, if you want to just simply stick to cities, not as opposed to states, how do you explain Memphis or how do you explain St. Louis? I mean, those are in states where you don't have any problem. You don't have any problem getting a gun in Memphis. You don't have any hurdles of gun laws in St. Louis. And their crime rate, and I'm talking not suicide, we're talking crime. Their crime rate with guns is higher than Chicago, higher than New York, higher than Los Angeles. In fact, St. Louis has been the murder capital of America more than once. St. Louis, in a red state, Missouri. How do you explain that? You don't hear that on right-wing media because Chicago makes a better whipping boy. It's where Obama is from. It's a liberal city. It has tough gun laws. So it's everything that is anti-Republican. So they keep bringing up Chicago. But St. Louis, per capita, is more violent than Chicago. So is Memphis. So is Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And these. So I don't know. Be fair with your statistics. Going back to the comments, the logical libertarian, good. And Detroit is where I see that. The logical libertarian, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. What do you think about holding on to your long rifle? Would you be willing to put your life on the line to do so?
Man, I've already said enough. My FBI agent sent me a text or a tweet this morning saying, shut up,
I'm assuming you're joking, right?
Yeah. Look, we're a law of land, so you got to follow the laws that are on the books, right?
Right.
So it's a catch-22, right? Okay, it's not a law on the books right now. So if they came kicking in my door right now, and we might have to have a physical conversation. If they passed a law, then we need to go through the courts to get that law ruled unconstitutional. So
if they passed a law until that law was ruled unconstitutional, you would follow that law.
I'm too cute for prison, my man.
Fair enough. And I do believe most folks would. I mean, there are some diehard gun owners out there that are not going to give their shit up no matter what. But if if your elementary school daughter is looking you in the face or your wife and is like, "Honey, we don't need you locked up. We need you to be a father. I need you as a husband." You can get a pistol. You can get a shotgun. I do believe cooler heads would prevail with a lot of gun owners.
I mean, I'll, I'll put it this way: if it was just me, I'm gonna have to just focus on getting a good lawyer, and getting, whatever the situation was sorted out or whatever. But if you were talking about a bearcat going down the street, going door to door, that's my sign. That's
Yeah.
that's my sign that I got another username called Liberty or Death. So, um, you know, and was that your question? One isolated incident that came
Yeah.
knocking on my door, or are you
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about Bearcats doing door
Yeah,
to door?
I asked the question for effect about going door to door and confiscating weapons. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't even believe liberals want a full confiscation. It's just too dangerous. And a lot of police officers would not even do it. If they had to go door to door and confiscate firearms, hell, I'm from the south side of Chicago. There are neighborhoods the police right now don't want to fuck with because it's dangerous. If you got to go to somebody's house that you know is packing like that, no, they're not going to do that. Not for that, not for the salary they're making now. So no, I don't believe that would happen.
Well, yeah, and then so when people talk about like, oh, you don't need this, it's like, well, Uvalde just showed us that these people are not here to protect us. They are here to collect a check. They're here to serve their own purposes, and they're there to protect politicians and the government interest. The police have no legal obligation to protect us.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
um,
I do agree that Uvalde and Parkland, Florida is another example where they didn't, the police. Oddly enough, that happened in the very gun friendly states of Florida and Texas, by the way, too, where the cops turned into
and
cowards.
I want to address the stats map you just had up, because I won't dispute those, but
Sure, go ahead.
this idea that people just want to totally only use statistics when it benefits their narrative. Listen, if you think Utah is more fucking dangerous than New York, California, or Illinois, you're insane. If you think Alaska, because I think it's either Nome or it's Anchorage, is rated as the number one most dangerous city in America because of those, get the fuck out of here if you think you're going to run into a bunch of violence in Nome, Alaska. I mean,
Well, the amount of domestic violence in Alaska, actually, I mean, they've had like National Geographic programs and stuff like that on YouTube, is because they deal with large months, what is it, large portions of the year where they have darkness. And what the hell am I wearing? Somebody thank you for that. I just looked up and seen that hat. That Kango, appreciate that. But they have large periods of time when the state is dark, during winter, people get depressed and do all kinds of things, which is what my last caller was talking about. Is a lot of those deaths are suicide. But a gun death is a gun death. Even if you swallow your own pistol, you still are using your firearm to take a life, even if it is your own. So that would probably explain Alaska. Same thing with South Dakota. I've seen and the reason I looked this up is because NBC Nightly News. No, I know it was Meet the Press that came on earlier today. Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, one of the Sunday shows. He was debating with a Kentucky congressman that was saying that the cities with liberal gun laws, with very tough gun restrictions, have the highest crime. And he brought up a map, and South Dakota was pretty high up in the ratings in terms of states with high gun crimes. And I'm like, they shooting each other up in South Dakota like that? But
yeah.
yeah,
So
some of it is. Go
I
ahead.
don't know South Dakota's population, but I think it would be fair if we were to just use an analogy of 1 million, right? It's not much over there, right?
It's pretty light. Yeah.
Okay, so you need 10 murders to come up with uh, one per 100,000, right?
Okay.
And what do you think you need in California to come up with one per 100,000? Like 300.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have 300 murders in one land area, probably about what California is probably about twice the size of South Dakota. So you're going to need
In ter-
300 murders there and 10 in South Dakota to have the exact same stat.
Well, the thing about it is, like in Chicago, for instance, which everybody on the right uses as a whipping boy for crime. Chicago has about I say about 700 homicides per year right now, which is supposedly extremely high. But when you look at the number of citizens in Chicago, you're talking millions of people in that one city. You're talking 700 homicides among several million people. So when you look at smaller areas like St. Louis that has a few 100,000 and they got like 200 or 300 murders in that town, it's way higher.
Yeah, and I mean, you're from Chicago. You can probably attest to this.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
the war zone over there is going to be about, oh, I don't know what, 20 city blocks. There's going to be plenty of places in Chicago that are very fine for you to go strolling around on your. I mean, I've been there once or twice. It's a big ass city, and
yeah.
I'm not here to just go on the Chicago talking point. But what I just, I don't look at it like, oh, uh, that's our whipping stick that we're going to use. Oh, look at Chicago! Look at Chicago. There's dynamics. I just do think it's very disingenuous to say just because a stat of per 100,000 would make something like Anchorage or Nome, Alaska, the most dangerous city in America. I think you need to evaluate all of the other data being used.
I agree with that. So at the end of the day, though, I mean, you want to preserve the Second Amendment, but what do you do about the fact that so many people are dying by way of projectiles? I mean, what do we just accept this as a condition of living in America? Every time you hear somebody get shot, you just go, America? I mean, fuck, United States, fuck yeah, as they said on the cartoon, America, fuck yeah. I mean, what do you do? Is this just a condition of living here?
Unfortunately, partly yes. I think there's laws on the books that aren't being enforced properly, right? The same way
Like,
that
like what?
uh, domestic violence laws that would prevent somebody from purchasing a firearm, those aren't reciprocal in all 50 states. It's not mandated
Yeah,
reporting. You could
but
have
when it comes to let me ask you about that. Let's say, for instance, a woman goes and files a restraining order against you. She says you've threatened me. She says she's talking about you. Your ex-girlfriend goes to court or something, and she wants to get an emergency order of protection under the guise that she feels her life is in danger because you've made threats against her. Now, to get an emergency order of protection, there essentially is not a lot of proof required. She's going to get an immediate order of protection. They're going to give her a court date, and that gives you time to come in and say she's full of shit or for her to state her case. But it's going to be probably anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks before you have a chance to come in and prove your side. Should your gun rights disappear during that time?
It's a tough one. That's for legal scholars, but my personal opinion would be I'm not that against red flag laws. My problem is I don't think they're implemented correctly, right? The same way if you say bomb on an airplane and you get your ass kicked off the fucking plane, nobody else on the plane is saying, oh, hey, freedom of speech. No, they're like, ha, enjoy your
Yeah.
fucking day, right? So if you
Yeah,
are
but
on
what
faith,
about the? I mean, I got.
hear me
Thank
out,
you.
Tim. Hear me out. Hear me out.
But I got to
So
ask you this though, because this is very common. And by the way, appreciate that hat, cornstar G. Mine as always. How do you? I mean, a lot of women lie about domestic violence. A lot of women do. So
you should be able to countersue. That's what I was getting at. Is if
okay,
and so the problem with red flag laws is that your constitutional rights are being violated because you don't have a right to face your accuser. These things happen behind your back. You'll be sitting at home minding your own business, and all of a sudden you get a knock on the door. Oh well, your girlfriend or your wife went to the police. They went to the DA. The DA went to the judge, and this is all news to you. So
yep,
that's where I'm against it all happening. Now, if this thing is that serious, okay, then the police should have been called there and had enough evidence to separate the two of you. It doesn't mean
okay,
one of you is going to jail, but as far as I know, the cops can say, I don't care where you go, but one of you ain't sleeping here tonight, right? And if
and
I
that
come
too
back,
is a hard one.
and if I
That
come
too is
back,
a hard
you're
one.
both going to jail, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so there would have to be some kind of paper trail right there, right? Then she goes to court the next day, right, or whatever it is, and goes to a detective, then whatever DA goes to the once it gets to the judge's table. The judge says, "Okay, I want both you fuckers in here tomorrow at 9 a.m." Then
okay,
I would stand for red flag laws, right? Because then you've got a judge who has to execute these things in a constitutional manner. But when this stuff's happening behind your back and you have no say, then there's a problem. And I absolutely believe if you're out there ranting on Facebook about what you're going to go and do, that's you made your own bed. Take their guns. I also believe, even as a libertarian, and I don't want to make other people responsible for other people's crimes. How many times have we heard, well, Timmy's been talking about this for 10 years. I didn't think he would do it.
Yeah,
You're fucking
yeah.
responsible, motherfucker. I'm not saying you are going to prison for life,
Well,
but you're
shit.
definitely,
I gotta move it on. But based on what you're saying, how many folks that support Trump right now are talking about purges and all? I mean, if you want to say they've been talking about it for years, you would take away a lot of MAGA's gun rights.
not law-abiding citizen rights.
No, you said red flag laws. People who are writing stuff on Facebook. You know me. My primary audience is MAGA. I love talking to MAGA, but I can't even count how many people have talked about the threat of violence because of what has happened to Trump. I mean, you want to talk about people who have gotten on social media and talked about what they're going to do? I've probably talked to over 1,000 people at this point.
Well, the First Amendment is not unlimited.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And if you want, if you don't mind, please give me 2 more minutes because there's one other thing I want to address.
Okay, you got to make it quick because I got other
Yeah, I
stuff. So
will.
go ahead.
Two guests ago, the guy said you have a right to a deer rifle, but not a military rifle. Well, in the ruling of Heller, they affirmed that the Second Amendment extends to regular persons and in their homes. And Justice Stevens and Breyers, in their dissent, loved referencing U.S. versus Miller, which happened in the 30s, where he was in possession of a sawed-off shotgun, and they upheld it. And you know why? Because it was not ordinary military weapons. So when people want to reference Supreme Court case and all this good stuff, just remember that the Second Amendment gives me a more inherent right to a military weapon than it does a deer rifle.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right, man. I got to move it on, though.
Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, anytime, anytime. All right. In the comments, I'll go right back to the box, but real quick, Jacob Jordan said, I have not heard one Trump supporter say purge. Got a reference for me. I ain't got time to give you all of them. Yes, are you serious? You've never heard of a Trump supporter threaten violence? Seriously? Based on the belief that Trump has been constantly harassed and there's witch hunts going on, they're trying to. You've never heard of one Trump supporter threaten violence because of this stuff? No way. The election being taken, you've never heard of anybody threaten violence because they believe democracy is being stolen because of Biden? Not one person? I have a hard time believing that. I just really have a hard time believing that. My guess is, because you asked for references, my guess is you're hearing it and you're tossing out that stuff as not being valid. And that's probably what you would do to any reference presented, is that, they just joking, they're kidding, that you can't believe that person, or that's Antifa, or that's Black Lives Matter making up lies. But you've heard it. You've absolutely heard it. I mean, the folks on January 6th alone were screaming all sorts of threats of violence. You think they're the only ones that feel that way? Come on now, there's no way in the world you're going to tell me you have not heard any threats of violence. And I see some folks are saying I hear it more on the left, which there are plenty of people on the left that threaten violence as well, particularly towards police. But yeah, there's no way in the world I'm going to pretend like I haven't heard threats of violence from the right. Certainly with the LGBT crowd, things that are being projected on the children that they're not happy with, certain lessons in school about CRT that they're not happy with. People have been threatening violence everywhere. You think the FBI is just making it all up? Even the FBI is saying that they're hearing it. You didn't hear one person? Do you use social media other than this page? And I do applaud you for being here. I'm glad you're here watching. And by the way, folks, tap the screen. Do not let your thumbs be lazy. Get your boy up to 5,000 or 15,000 likes. Hell, we might even be able to shoot to 20. There's plenty of patriots here, getting a lot of patriot participation tonight. Liberals are welcome on the program, but I make it clear I don't ban, block, or censor anyone. This is a MAGA-free program, a MAGA-friendly program, rather. Despite the name of the program, The Handsome Liberal, here you are. But I am definitely fond of speaking to MAGA. The whole purpose is I believe they often do not get a fair shake in the media. And here, I promise you will always get one. Going back to the box, the diamond cut. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, loud and clear. We're talking about defending long rifles with your life. Would you be willing to do that?
Well, brother, let me start with. You're talking to a 25-year veteran over here, Army veteran,
Appreciate your service. Appreciate your service.
and I'm going to tell you this as far as in my personal opinion. I believe it doesn't take for you, first of all, to own 65 long rifles, shotguns, uh, boomerangs, whatever, to defend your home. I mean,
Okay.
that's just starting with that. Okay. The second thing is, people talk about the Second Amendment, which, as everybody that read into the Second Amendment, first it was established almost 200 some years ago,
Right.
1790 something. The whole thing is, what in God's earth? I have not yet seen a musket with a 100 round Mickey Mouse drum. I have not. Look,
I
I
don't
mean,
think that would, something. It's interesting you would say that because there was a commercial. I'd have to see if I can find it, which a guy wanted to try to commit a mass casualty event with a musket. He walks
yes,
in the office, he fires off
I,
one shot, and
I
everybody
seen it.
scatters. And
I
he
seen it.
pulls out. You seen that commercial?
Yes, I've seen it. I've seen it. And again, going back again, I mean, to all the fellow veterans that are listening, all the MAGA guys. Well, I'm sorry, I call it MAGA cult, but I got my reasons. But anyway,
Okay.
uh, um, I want to let them know that, look, guys, what in God's earth in the 1700s, even in the 1800s, you did not have a Gatling gun like available, ready available, that you can just pull out of your jacket, because right now you can get a folding stock AR-15 and you put it right under your jacket and nobody knows that you got a fully loaded weapon,
Right.
like fully loaded with 30 rounds and sometimes more than 30 rounds. And
So would you support the assault rifles ban? What they're talking about?
I'll support 100% for long capacity magazines. I mean, I
Yeah.
want to say long capacity, like high capacity magazines. I'm sorry.
Okay.
High
What do
capacity
you
magazines.
what do you deem as high capacity? 17, 30, 50, 100 round drum? What would be high capacity in your opinion?
Let me tell you this. If he if he takes 20 bullets, if he takes 10 bullets, I want to say 10 plus to kill something, you got bad aim. You're a bad shooter, or you just need some training. And that's my next subject. I believe for me to do this red flag, thing, I believe people need to be trained. People need to be trained. Look, you want to drive a car in the United States, you need to have a driver's license. Period.
Yeah, but driving is a privilege. Owning a gun is a right.
Well, when and going to the right and a privilege. And you know what? When people think that owning a gun it's a right, it is a right that was given to all Americans in 1790 something.
Yeah.
It needs to be changed. It needs to be amended again.
What kind of amendments you think needs to be imposed on the Second Amendment? How should they change the Second Amendment or alter it?
The Second Amendment, as everybody was, people that have read, it was mainly just for you to, just to keep the government in check. Look, the government wants to be stupid, the people will rise up. Basically, that's what the Second Amendment is. Now, when what I'll do, to impose, I want to say conditions and whatnot, training. That's the first thing. Look, you're not gonna give I want to say an AK-47 with a 30 round, 20 round magazine to little Susie, because by the way, I'm from Florida, which this is crazy over here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna,
Well,
let me tell you this. You can take a child of 8 years old to the gun range so she can shoot a rifle or AR-15.
Did you hear the story a few years back where a father did exactly that? He took his child, his 8-year-old, she was 8,
Mhm.
to a gun range and was helping, and they were showing her how to fire an Uzi. The gun instructor was standing behind her while she was firing an Uzi. The recoil made the Uzi fire straight up and struck the gun owner in the head.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and again, here in Florida, you can have your 8 year older, and I've seen this because I go to the gun ranges here in the I want to be specific, in the Tampa area, and I'm going to tell you this. I see, Mr. John and Mr. Lewis bringing, little Susie, little Ricky. Oh, come on, you're giving that child a freaking AK to practice.
But wait a minute. Let me. How do you feel about people who say that exposing a child that young to guns is what makes them behave safer around weapons because they know what it can do, as opposed to not giving them any access and them being very curious? So, how do you respond to people who say, "I was taught how to use a gun from a very young age and how to respect it"?
Well, this is where I'll respond. Why don't you give them a BB gun? How about that? Why do you gotta give them a doggone 7.62, round to learn how to use a gun, little Ricky? Come on, little Ricky doesn't
Well,
even
but they're
have.
not. They're not. Wait a minute. When you say they're not exactly giving the child. I mean, it's illegal to give an 8-year-old gun. I mean, they're just showing them how to use it. But when they leave the range, the
No,
kid doesn't have
correct,
access
correct.
to the weapon.
Well, when you put it on the kid's hands, you're giving it to him. I mean, not giving it to own it, but allow the child to basically handle the gun. And
Yeah,
again,
but but yeah, but it's completely supervised.
and that's what happened to that child right there on that gun range with the Uzi. It was
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
supervised.
yeah,
However, little
yeah.
little Ricky knows now how to do it. So now little Ricky goes, father goes home, put the which a lot of people don't even have gun, safety, safety boxes thing in their homes. Dad puts the gun in the closet, and little Ricky goes, "Hey, I like the way this thing looks on me." And little Ricky start practicing shooting at home because
Damn.
that is the one thing that children will do. Children are curious, and I think for the Second Amendment, to me, in my personal opinion, it needs to be revised. Now, to take the gun away from the citizens, I think that will be wrong. Taking them away, like I'm gonna go, like I'll get the like how do this
So
person
no,
call it?
you said taking a gun away from citizens you think would be wrong. So no limitations on what citizens can own. You'd be okay with them still being able to own AR-15s?
No, let me tell you, and I'm glad you even said that.
Okay.
When I say citizens, I want to call it law abiding citizens.
All right.
Again, for example, here in the Tampa area, you can go in Tampa like they normally do. They do a background check on you and lottie lottie, and you get your gun, 33 days after, or sometimes 4. Well,
Okay.
you go to the next county over, and you get your gun like right there on the spot, and you're like, what in God's earth? And so it doesn't matter if they have the law here in Hillsborough County, as an example. You can go to Polk County and just get
So what do
yourself
you
a
want to
little
wait? You
rifle.
want a grace period or some kind of waiting period?
I want to say a waiting period, and I want to say training. I want to say training. You want to have this given right, right? Well, let me give you a given written note that now you need to take training. That's what I would like
Well,
for
then
the
that's,
Second
but
Amendment.
that's not, then that means having a firearm would then become a privilege, not a right. Because when you think about all of the rights you have, you don't have any stipulation over what is required to have that right. You just have it, such as you have a right to the pursuit of happiness. There is no test you have to pass to have that right. When it comes to the Second Amendment, either you have a right to own a firearm or you don't. If you got to pass a test or something like that, then it's now under a certain condition. That's what they are talking about when they say shall not be infringed upon. You're infringing when you start doing that stuff.
Well, you know what? We go back again to the comment I started with. That happened 200 some years ago, people. Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
200 some years ago, as you know, we got over 330 million people in this country. I don't think that we were 330 million back then.
No,
And,
absolutely not.
and,
Absolutely
it,
not.
And again, high capacity magazines. You don't need to go shoot ducks because a lot of them, sport people. Oh, I use this for hunting. I say, brother, let me tell you this: if you need an AR-15 to go hunting ducks, and you put your 100 round or 50 round of drum magazines to hunt ducks, you're a bad shooter. You don't know how to shoot. Period.
Fair enough.
And again, to me, it's a double-edged sword. Again, we'll live 200 years later. It's and the only way I can see it is, if we go 200 years back, and you see somebody, flying a doggone helicopter, an airplane, they'll be like gods. It's like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And
Well,
now,
times do change. Times do change. I get your argument. I got to
time.
move it on, man.
Alrighty,
Go
brother.
ahead.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And again, going door to door with the gazpacho, with the
That would be
gazpacho,
dangerous.
that
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 would be dangerous.
that will be super dangerous, and I don't
All
agree with
right.
that. All
Got
right,
your point.
thank you for
Have
the
a good
opportunity.
evening. You too. All right. Looking in the comments, Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. No, but it depends on who. Everybody has a different take from what I can tell what the Second Amendment means. I've had all sorts of definitions. Real quick for you guys who may have not seen this hysterical commercial, I would invite you to look at your devices and look at it's a 30-second ad. Look at what's on the screen behind yours, truth. I just thought this was funny and wanted to put it up before. I'll go right back to the box after this.
Excuse me. Hey. Hey.
If you want to just add those in, we can send them out.
Guns have changed. Shouldn't our gun laws? I thought that was a very I've always thought that's a very funny commercial. He goes in and he takes a shot, and he even misses the first guy he takes a shot at. And he misses the first guy, and as everybody takes off running, he pulls out the stick and starts loading another round. I'm assuming by the time he gets the second round in, the entire building will be clean. But going right back to the box, very funny commercial. It's Gangsta G-Ma. Good evening, come back, Gangster. What's on your mind this evening, girl?
We need to get those big guns off the streets. We really do. We do. The AR-15s. Why do we need an AR-15? Let's be real. A lot of people say we use it for hunting. Well, you won't have no damn deer meat if you use an AR-15.
Well, wait. What are you suggesting? An AR-15, what is it, 223 round? You're saying that would blow the deer to smithereens?
That will blow. Yeah. If you see our
That's not
bodies, what you
true.
be? Yes, it is.
That's
Yes, it
not.
is.
Wait a minute.
My uncle's a hunter. We don't need that. You need a gun, a regular gun to go shoot,
Yeah,
a
but an
rifle.
AR, but hang on, an AR doesn't do that type of damage to a big ass deer. Actually, an AR round is a pretty fast, small round. I mean, it's not gonna.
It does
There'll be
damage.
plenty of
If
deer to
it does
salvage.
damage to us, what the hell you think it won't do damage to a deer? You
Yeah,
can't
but
even.
go
Come
ahead.
on now. Come on now. It does.
Yeah.
AR-15s do mega damage to us. It goes ding, ding, ding to all of our tested and everything. It does. It messes with us. It kills us. You don't
Well,
see that
first of
many
all, I would
people
tell
living from
you.
AR-15s, huh?
Well, but first of all, I would tell you that even when it comes to shooting another human being with an AR, it's not necessarily the gun, it's the round. Whereas you're talking full metal jacket versus a hollow point, the round itself can actually
Well, at
balloon
the end
out
of
and
the
do all
damn
sorts of
day,
damage.
I think people are getting sick and tired of all these deaths.
I agree
The
with that.
megas, they rather have the gun than have people survive. Do you know we are the laughing stock of the world? Other countries are telling their people not to come here because the gun
Yeah.
violence is so bad. They're
Yeah,
telling people not to
I
come
wanted
here.
to it's interesting you brought that up because I meant to put that I didn't present a slide for that, but that is true that countries as of this weekend, I think some countries started actually it's been happening a little sooner than that. They're starting to give warnings to their citizens. I'm talking first world countries like Australia and in places like that
Yeah,
that are warning their citizens about coming to America
not to
because
come
of the
here.
violence we have here.
We are the
Yeah,
laughing stock because we have more guns than people. We don't need AR-15s and machine guns here. We don't need Uzis here. And you know, one thing is, when Clinton did that ban, the deaths did go down. The gun violence did go down. They had they had big ass gun back, and people put their guns out, and they gave the machine guns and stuff back. They did, and we
Well, how do
did not
you
have it like
how would
that.
you respond? You mentioned laughing stock. How would you respond to Derek in the comments who was saying we are the laughing stock of the world because the president you voted in, talking about Biden?
Oh, you know what? You know what? Mega is like in a la la land. Do you feel what I'm saying? They are two French fries short of a fucking Happy Meal. They saw far up Trump's ass. They probably know the flavor of his shit. They always believe that Joe does nothing, but Joe is one of the best presidents we have. Do you realize that he didn't even lose seats like that, like they thought they did? He was the only president in the United States that did not lose seats like that. You know why? Because Joe's the bomb. Unlike Trump, Pookie.
I
So
want
megas
okay.
need to shut up. They are in a
Since
cult.
you since you brought that up, I want to play something for you, and I want you to give me your opinion on this. It's about a minute, but I want you to hear this and give me your opinion on it.
The Biden administration will collapse, and I use that word literally, if the House committee can find that Hunter Biden gave money to his father while Joe Biden was vice president. That will, if
Can I
that
tell
can
you
be
something about that?
established,
Did you see
that
how these white people
collapses
are?
the entire
Oh, I
administration
always seen this. This is
because
like a
Joe
joke.
Biden did not put that
Okay,
money
wait,
on.
wait. I don't know if you what did you say because you
Let me tell
interrupted.
you something. Let me tell you something. Okay, let me tell you something. Hunter Biden is not the president. He doesn't even work
Yeah,
for the
but you
White
didn't.
House.
Okay, I agree with you, but you obviously you didn't listen to what he said because it covers that. I want you to. I want it's only a minute. Just listen to it, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
If the House committee can find that Hunter Biden gave money to his father while Joe Biden was vice president. That will, if that can be established, that collapses the entire administration because Joe Biden did not put that money on his tax return. That's a felony. Felony. You can only give $12,000 to someone else as a gift without a tax penalty. So I'm telling you, this story is enormous. The implications are through the roof on both sides. It's going to be an interesting year, and it will affect the 2024 election.
Okay, now he's covered the fact that his son is not president. I get what you're saying, but how do you feel about what he just said?
You know, well, people are just pushing straws, man. Because you know why? Because Joe Biden's clean. The 45 is not clean. He's fixing to go down for a whole hell of a lot of shit. And they're just trying to pick and go after Joe Biden for any and every little thing. Hunter Biden is not in the White House, so they need to keep it. Why do you think why do you think Trump's kids are running from him? Why do you think? They're running from him because he's going to go down. And the mega, they want, oh my God, Joe Biden this and Joe Biden. Get the fuck out of here, megas. You're so far up your Trumpy's ass. You know what the flavor of his shit is and stuff. Go up there his ass again. Man,
Okay.
damn. Get out of
Okay, now
Joe's ass. Because you guys are
I
big, big,
get
big, big mad.
okay, I get the issues that Trump has all sorts of legal issues. I agree with you 100% on Trump having his own problems, but in regards to what he said about Biden, I mean, do you believe that Hunter Biden, there's nothing to that story at all?
Honestly, they would have found out when he was vice president. Come on now. This people like stupid and special for real, for real. He got bedded how many times, man? If they would have found that, they would have found that out easily. Come on now. He's been embedded in shit. They're just picking any little thing because Trumpster is going down. And why don't they?
I don't
And I have
know.
one more thing. I have one more damn thing. Why do you think Trump is so hardcore, so damn hardcore, was not going to let his damn taxes? Now they're coming out now. Joe Biden put his taxes out. Go figure. Go figure.
But what
They
if he
simply
put
gave
his
him
tax?
that. Come
What if
on now.
Biden? What if Biden put his taxes out, as you're saying, but he did not tell the truth on them, like what was showed in that video there?
Honestly, honestly, Joe Biden would have told the truth. That man opens his mouth. He like Dark Biden. He opens his mouth, and he does. He ain't scared of these people. Like Trump is, don't though. Trump is a coward. Trump will hide and do any little thing just to keep his power. Biden's open.
So
Biden is open.
you believe Biden is genuinely an honest man?
Yeah, he is. He's more honest than fucking Trumpster.
Okay, all right,
Because
fair
if he
enough.
wasn't so honest, why didn't he do his taxes? If Trump was so honest, where's his taxes at? Oh, he's been out. He told the IRS to audit him. Come on now. They're just trying to find any Mega is trying to find
Let me
anything
okay. I
against
gotta move it on real quick, but before I let you go, I want you to dime bag. I love the naming. I'm sure you know what that pertains to. Dime bag in the comments said he would like to know one accomplishment from President Biden. Basically, just give me
Oh,
one of his
what
accomplishments.
accomplished? What accomplished? We have the chip thing, the chip bill. Then we had
Microchips.
the biggest bill to get the bridges and stuff, right? That's the second one, right? Then he did the Recovery Act. That's the third one. What else? You guys want to keep on going? You guys want to keep
Yeah.
on going? The chip. Come on now.
Go ahead, keep going. Yeah, drop a few more.
All right, we'll drop a few. What? You don't believe me? It's all up
No,
in there.
I'm a liberal, lady.
I can't tell some of the damn times we need to put some blue on your ass because sometimes you be slipping into the red area. Say, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah, of course I'm going to sometimes slip into the red area because the blue area is not perfect. I'm going to point out
No,
flaws of
who said the blue?
Democrats.
Who said the blue area was perfect? But we're a hell of a lot better than the GOP though.
Okay. All right,
Let's be
fair enough.
real. But
Fair enough.
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Joe is killing it. And that's why they're big mad at Mega. Because for one, Trump didn't do shit in office like that. Trump didn't do shit like that in office. He couldn't even get Mexico to pay for the border wall. But guess who did though? Joe Biden did though.
All
Booyah,
right.
cuz.
So
He did that.
I'm assuming that you believe Joe Biden should run for re-election.
Oh, he's going to win re-election. He is because he's killing it. The gas price is under $3 a gallon, boogies. So
All
calm
right.
those nerves down. Let's
All
praise
right,
Biden for that
gangster.
one too.
All
You know what I'm saying?
right.
I'm being real. I'm being real. You know what? All this bullshit about Trump did this with the wall and shit, and he couldn't even get Mexico to pay for it. What? The first year, Mexico started to pay for the security and shit. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
but okay,
helping us.
so firefighter in the comments says Trump did more than any other president.
They lying. They lying. What the hell did he do? He killed more people with COVID though. Amen to that, huh? He killed a lot of the GOP, a lot of the old GOP. Hello. He
All
did that.
right.
What else did he do? What else? He ran us through the ground. No, you seen thousands and thousands of people get food boxes.
All right.
Hello. What did he do? What did he do?
All right, gangster. All right, I gotta
No,
move
no,
it
be
on,
for real,
girl.
for real. Let's be real.
All right.
That motherfucker didn't do shit. The only thing he did was ride on the piggyback of Obama's economy until he crashed that shit. And
Okay.
then guess what happened? Joe came and got our economy right back going. So you
You
really
on the
think we're
road.
gonna?
You are on the road tonight, girl. I gotta
Yes,
move it
I
on, though.
am.
You know how
And
we do.
I had to go smoke me another blunt 'cause I got to deal with these megas. See, I don't understand how you can deal with megas and not smoke a blunt because I could not handle this. The ignorance that comes from them. You feel what I'm saying? I had
I,
to roll me blunts.
I gotta let the people speak, but I'll let you go right now. We'll talk on the next one.
All right, bye.
Yeah. All right. I want what she's smoking, says, what did that say? Buff? I didn't see that. Buff B. Moore says, I want what she's smoking. Well, she's smoking some of that sticky, icky. And if the Republicans had it done right, they would have legalized it while they were in office. But that's what she's smoking. Appreciate that. Zion, thank you. Trump did a lot for blacks. Nobody want to give him credit, says Bam Bam 45372. You know, in regards to Trump doing a lot for blacks, I hear that, I hear about the HBCUs, I hear about the jobs and the economy, which did benefit blacks. Certainly the economy under Trump did. I have no problem pointing out Trump's economy. Inflation rates were pretty good. But I think the racist stuff is what hurts Trump. so that even if he's doing things that are benefiting the black community, there's no denying that there's a lot of racial shit orbiting around him. I guess we could deflect to vote for me or you ain't black or something to try to take it off of him, but there's a lot of racial shit orbiting around Trump that cannot be explained. Come in the box if you want. I'll even explain it to you. But moving the program on, I think I had old Bill. Let's try old Bill again because he dropped out last time. Old Bill 8 had problems with your signal. Let's see if it works this time. For some reason. Okay, old Bill, can you hear me? Old Bill. Once again, we're having trouble. I'll give you a few seconds here while I look in the comments. That's a good example of a far left extremist. Says 1984 isn't fiction. Remember that commercial? Wow. Old Bill, you're on mute. Try to get your device. I'll give you a couple more seconds. That's the lib media calling him racist. No, Hound Dog Hill. Trump is
All right, you there? You
yeah,
there?
Trump has said some real quick. Old
Can
Bill,
you-
hang on. Trump has said some genuinely has done some genuinely racist things that I've talked about on the profile. Even though, like I said, his economy and stuff was good. But if you want, you guys let me know in the comments. I'll let you know what I'm talking about. Old Bill, go ahead. Good evening.
All right, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right, what are we talking about the long rifles again, or are we on Trump and Biden? Which one are we
No,
talking about?
well, you can take your pick, but the topic is obviously defending your possession of a long rifle with your life. Would you take it that far?
Oh, yes, I would. I definitely would. Because number one reason, everyone wants to compare it to a hunting rifle, correct?
Yeah, I've heard people
Okay.
doing that.
All right. Well, there is an exact hunting rifle that accepts AR-15 magazines that hold 30 rounds, 100-round drums, can go into a hunting rifle. It is called a Ruger Ranch Hand. Look it up.
What is it called?
It is
Real
a
quick, let me say this. I'll let you continue, but let me say two things, folks. Tap your screen, get your boy up to 25,000 likes. Appreciate that. And for those who are wondering about what Trump said, after I'm done with the caller, I will give you that example. So I will keep my promise, and we're talking about the Second Amendment right now. But after this caller, I will give you the information you're asking for. What was the name of the rifle you said?
It is a Ruger Ranch Hand, and it's chambered in 223, and it can also shoot 5.56.
I mean, it's what are the similarities other than the round size to the AR? You said a Ruger Ranch Hand?
Yep. It is the exact same rifle, except it is a wooden stock rifle. You can
Really?
shoot it at the same firing rate as an AR-15. A lot of people don't even know what AR stands for.
Armalite. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm
See?
looking. Yeah, it
Exact
is. Yeah, it
same
is.
rifle.
I mean, do they make 100-round drums and all that stuff for it too?
The 100-round drum can fit right in where the magazine goes. It can fit a 10-round magazine. It can fit a 30-round magazine. It can fit a 100-round drum. If it goes into an AR-15, it can go into a Ruger Ranch Hand.
You know, just like I told a few callers back, I had someone, in my opinion, the reason why the AR is getting so much attention is because of what it's being used to do. We had a caller on here pointing out that handguns cause a lot more deaths than AR-15s or long rifles.
Which they do. They do.
And I gave him the example of the difference between more citizens dying in car crashes versus airplane crashes. And it's just the nature of how horrible an airplane crash is, which is why an airplane crash will always get more attention. There's far more regulation preventing airplane crashes than there are car crashes, even though more people die in car crashes.
Right. Well, how many rounds does a Glock 45, which is the model number, chambered in 9mm, how many rounds does that hold?
What is it, 16 or 17? But people are not. Yeah, but that goes back to my original point. Just like a car crash, there are far more cars on the road than airplanes. But when more people are dying at one time by cars, even though you can put a hell of a lot of rounds in a pistol, like you're talking about a Glock or something of that nature. But most of these mass casualty events are happening with AR-15s and long rifles.
Right. They're happening with AR-15s and long rifles because these mass casualties are normally happening from a younger crowd that are
Yeah.
pissed off about something. And what is it that this younger crowd does every single day? They sit around playing Modern Warfare. They sit around playing uh, Call of Duty, and they idolize these little uh, first-person viewer video games where they're playing and shooting everybody, and they're learning about these weapons that they really don't realize how much they do. And 99% of the time, they think they can freaking
So,
respawn.
so do you believe that these young folks should have access to games like Call of Duty?
I do not. I do not think they should. They have a rating on them for mature, meaning that those games are for adults. And these idiotic parents are letting their kids play these games because that's what's popular. And these young kids are learning about this stuff entirely too early.
What about
But
rap
they're
music?
learning about it the wrong way.
What about rap music?
That stuff, you know what, music, I don't care what people say in music. Everybody has the music is to me it's a form of freedom of speech. So that's a totally different subject.
What
You know what I
about
mean?
what about violent TV shows and movies? Like, I mean, you can watch,
Exactly.
Law and Order or the FBI shows or Chicago PD and see people getting shot all the time too.
Correct, but those are also showing where law enforcement is dealing with a problem and trying to do the right thing and fix it.
Not all of them. There are some shows that are,
There's crooked cops everywhere.
yeah.
I mean, we know
But
there's crooked
not
cops.
even,
We know that
but yeah,
there's
but not even from a police aspect. There are shows that glorify dealing drugs and things like that. There are shows that don't even
exactly.
that the police are the
And that's
bad guys.
and that's on the parents to control what their kids watch.
So
If the parents control what their kids watch, then their kids wouldn't even know that kind of crap existed.
So let me ask you this then. Let's say, for instance, you have a child that goes to school and takes out a bunch of classmates, and you find out that the parents have been letting that child watch violent movies at home that were rated for, 17 and over or for an adult. Do you think
That should fall on the parent.
the parents should
That's
be
what I
charged with
think.
crime?
I think so. That's
Wow.
basically that's basically grooming your child into becoming a mass murderer. That's grooming your child into becoming a sadist. I mean, if you sit around and let your kid watch porn all the time, what do you think they're going to go try and do?
I watched a hell of a lot of porn when I was 13, 14. I didn't hurt anybody.
Exactly. And what were you trying to do when you was 13 or 14 years old? You was out trying to get some.
Yeah, okay, fair
You see
enough.
what I'm
I ain't gonna
saying?
argue with that.
So if the parents ain't regulating what their kids, I'm lucky. I'm retired. I get to sit home and watch my kids. I got an 8 and a 10-year-old. Them two ain't getting away with nothing. You know, if they do, they better try and do that stuff at their friend's house and to learn it from their friends. But in my house, it ain't gonna fly.
Okay, well, I want you to give me your take, and I always invite whatever your opinion is, no matter what it is. Earning money with Lumi says, so it's violent video games and violent movies fault? Ignorant. So in other words, as opposed
Definitely not
to,
ignorance.
I
Compare
get it,
it
I get
to.
it, but
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay.
So in other words, as opposed to doing anything about the weapons that actually have the killing capacity, you would be more likely to ban the cartoon video games and things like that, where it really involves nobody actually dying in real
And
life.
and and that's the thing is they're not even really cartoon video games if you think about it. Cartoons, how old are you? I'm 44 years old.
I got you about
Cartoons,
6 years.
okay, so cartoons back when we were kids was Wile E. Coyote dropping a big old stone trying to kill
Yeah,
Roadrunner, or
yeah,
Yosemite Sam pulling the guns out of his holsters and shooting up everything, or Elmer Fudd trying to kill the bunny. You know,
right.
if they were fictitious characters. Now, the video games and the stuff that they have nowadays, it's like real people, and it's like real people that they see on the streets. Like somebody sees me, I look like a straight up, you know, I look like a veteran. I got the long beard. I got, I'm always wearing something to do with military. I always have my grunt style shirts on. I always wear my tank hat that I wear every day because I was a tanker in the army. And to me, children are just being taught the wrong way, and that's why it's happening with children. Now, if we go back to the whole militia aspect that we were talking that I heard people talking about
Wait, but
earlier.
before you go to the militia aspect,
Uh huh.
staying in line with what you just said, in the comments, user guy 1962 said Australia and Japan have the same video games, but not the mass casualties. How do you
Man,
explain that?
man, you know what? I don't care about those countries because I don't live there.
Yeah, well,
I didn't.
I
I didn't
understand we
fight.
don't
I
care
didn't
about those
fight for those
countries, but if they
countries.
got the solution, I understand we don't care about those countries, but if they have the same situation, it's not coming up with the same deadly result. Wouldn't
They
we
don't
want to
have
know
the
why
access to
they're
the
not
weapons
having that?
because they don't have access to the weapons like we do.
So it is the guns.
Well, no, it's not the guns. The kids find the ways to get the guns. You can get a gun anywhere. You can
But they're
go buy.
not doing it
You
in
can.
Japan. If you can get a gun
That's
anywhere, then
because they don't have the guns. They don't have the supply that we have over here.
so
You
you're
get what I'm
making it
saying?
clear that even with these kids playing these video games and things like that, if we didn't have the Second Amendment, people would not be dying even with the video games.
Are going to be dying regardless. I mean, we're a huge country with a lot of people.
Then why
You
aren't they
know,
dying in these other countries? They have a lot of people in Japan.
because they don't have the weapons that we have. I mean, we have people in our country have weapons that have been passed down through their family members since the Civil War.
But you are admitting that the difference between our outcome in the outcome in Japan is the fact that we have guns.
Yeah, but they still they can still get the guns if they choose to. It's a
So let
harder
me
process, but they can still get the Japan. What do they have? They've got the Yakuza over there. Do you think that they run around chopping people up with katana blades or something? They got guns.
well, let me present it to you this way, because you often hear if you ban guns, criminals will just find another way.
They
On
do.
on the game of Call of Duty, you have knives and other ways of killing people in
Oh
that
yeah.
game, and you can throw grenades and bombs. So my question is, the kids over there are watching the video games.
Right.
They're not having mass casualty events. Why aren't they finding other ways? They play the same games. Why aren't they taking knives like the character in the game does and kill people? Why are they
Maybe
not having these events?
maybe their schooling system is a little stricter than ours. I don't know how their schooling system is. I don't know what they put on their TVs over there. I don't know. Yeah, they make the games over there, but I know a lot of Japanese families, and I know that they're a lot stricter of a culture than we are.
Okay. Well, it's not just Japan though either. It's
Yeah.
Norway, it's England. I mean, there's a
Oh
whole lot
yeah.
of countries out there. In fact, most first world countries, most
Oh
countries
yeah.
that we consider allies are not having these mass casualty events, and they all have access to these video games.
Right. But now let's get back into the militia part though. The reason that
Sure.
we have these weapons is so that we can create a local militia if something were to happen. Now, what people think of as a local militia, what do you think a local militia is?
Shit, I look at it. To me, a militia would be guys like yourself, guys who have some training, and guys
Correct.
who are prepared, like contractors over in Iraq or something. That type. That's what
Okay.
I think of a militia.
Right. A militia is a what do you call it? It's a group of men that are on standby for their community to take care of business if we have.
You're going on mute, old Bill. You put your device on mute. I'll
I
give you
am
a couple.
sorry.
There you go. Say that
Am I
again
back?
now. Yeah.
A militia is formed in case our government comes after us.
Okay.
Correct. If the government becomes tyrannical and they're doing unjust
Is
things
that
to
the
us, like
okay?
charging us ten
Yeah,
dollars a gallon for
Eddie in
gas.
the comments is pointing to the National Guard as being a militia.
The National Guard is not a militia. The National Guard is still controlled by the government, or I'm sorry, the National Guard is controlled by the governors of each state if
True.
something were to happen on our country.
That is
Now, a
true.
local militia is not controlled by the governor. A local militia is controlled by, say, the mayor of whatever town you're in.
Okay, that's still government though.
It's still government, but those are the people that would help provide stuff that we need as a militia. I'm not in a militia. I'm not saying anything like that. but a militia needs to be able to take on the government, the Army, the Marine Corps,
Thank you, Ashley.
the Navy. We got to be able to take on those people with the same type of
Well,
weapons
here's the
that they
problem
have.
with that. Here's the problem with that. Let's go by your way. Let's say the militia is controlled by the town, the mayor, or whatever. What happens if the tyrannical government is the mayor themselves,
Then,
such as Rudolph Giuliani stopping and frisking black people? He was a mayor. So
yeah,
how do
that's
we
wrong.
deal with that type of tyranny?
Well, see, that kind of stuff, someone would need to step up. That's when someone would need to step up, say, it could be anybody. If the town got together and they had a local meeting, like a town hall meeting together, someone would have to step up, take control, start finding anybody with any type of military experience to start training regular people on the weekends to take care of things.
Yeah.
You know?
Here's the problem I have though. When we start talking about well-regulated militias and going against a tyrannical government, I bring this up all the time. The country was formed in 1776 or whatever the case
Right.
may be, and from 1776 for at least the next 200 years plus in this country, we've had nothing but tyranny. Whether you're
Oh, yeah.
black, Hispanic, Native American, a woman, all of these groups were heavily oppressed while the
Correct.
Second Amendment existed. So
Right.
when folks say that the Second Amendment will prevent the government from being tyrannical, the entire history of this country disagrees with that.
Well, I can also say this. Now, if what a militia is basically now what a gang is.
Okay.
You take the gang members and the big gangs out west, the big gangs wherever, they're in control of certain areas, correct?
Right. And look
Right.
what they
Now,
do. And look what they do in
wait,
those areas.
wait, wait,
They
wait.
themselves
I'm
are
not
tyrannical.
right. I'm not saying that the gang members are a militia, but it's comparable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's comparable because it's a group of people. There's one leader, and then they got shot callers, which are like, I guess you'd say a sergeant major, and then you
Okay.
got soldiers down at the bottom and all that stuff. They have a rank structure,
Okay.
and if it is done for the good of the community, then it's done properly, and that's a well-regulated militia.
But when in American history has it ever been done for the good of the people? The problem I'm trying to give you is this. Point I'm trying to I got to move it on. I'll give you the last word.
Okay,
But the
I
point
get
I'm
you.
trying to
I
make,
get you.
the point I'm trying to make is this. You're either going to have a corrupt government or you're going to have a corrupt militia, because
Right,
we can talk about mobs breaking into prison and taking people out. We can talk about the
right.
KKK, which is essentially the KKK is a militia. I mean,
Pretty much.
all of the militias throughout American history, for the most part, they have been just as tyrannical as any government we could ever dream of.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and
Motorcycle
whenever,
gangs,
whenever
street
somebody
gangs,
gets in
they're all doing
control,
this stuff.
and the problem is once somebody gets in control, it's hard to tell if they're going to go the right way
Yeah.
or if they're going to become tyrannical themselves.
Right. So,
So
so the idea that having militias is going to make America better, no, it's just going to make America fall under the control of what that militia wants. They just become a smaller government. They're no,
they
it's,
do
yeah,
become a smaller government, and it's got to be
yeah,
the right people.
the
It's
militia
got
is no different than the Ba'ath Party or the Taliban. That's exactly what those are militias, and they want you to do things their way or else.
right, they do, but it's also something that should be. That should be a militia should be sanctioned by the government so the government can call on you to help them if needed.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that betters the country, but I got to move it on, old Bill.
All right.
You
Well, it
know
was
how we
great
do.
talking with you, and I hope some people do some research on weapons and see what's actually out there, because an
Fair enough.
AR-15 is all it is a platform, and what nobody's brought up. One more thing. Does anybody know what a SCAR is?
I don't know clue.
Okay, that's the new version of AR-15 that they're using in the military now. It's the SCAR 17, I believe is what it's called. I'm not sure, but it's a desert tan color. Look that up. SCAR rifle when you get a chance, and
All
that's
right.
what they're using now. And you can buy those at any local gun shop. Same thing that Special Forces use.
All right. Appreciate you coming through.
All right.
Now, I told folks earlier, I guess you guys are the ones who, because I was talking about something in regards to Trump saying something that's intolerant. I will play that. I mean, we've lost a few folks here. Nevertheless, that happens. But by the way, tap the screen. 30,000, 35,000 likes is possible. As I say all the time, it's a MAGA friendly audience. So I don't ban, block, or censor anyone for their opinions. And the fact that you may disagree with me, the host, never means a damn thing. So feel free to tap the screen. Before I go back to the box, what the hell was I talking about when we were having our previous conversation in which I stated that Trump has said intolerant things and what in regards to he's done a lot for African Americans, but I suggested that even though there is a belief he's done a lot for African Americans, there is an aura of racism floating around Trump that is hurting him. And folks go, well, Trump is not a racist. He's never said anything racist. I'm not here to say that Trump is a racist. I don't know what's in the man's heart, but I can certainly attest to the fact that he's done some racial things. He's said some things that are highly suspect in terms of being racist. I'll give you, and it's not from the mainstream media, one Punisher. I'm going to play this clip for you right here that's on the screen. It's not from the mainstream media. It's coming from President Trump's mouth himself. And I see in the comments there, IWZL Mischief says name them. I'll play this and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Are you aware? It's a much better idea. Well, it doesn't matter what they want. Free zone. If you have a safe zone in their own country, they stay there. It doesn't matter what they want.
Here goes.
Okay. Are you aware? It's a much better idea, and certainly better for us. Are you aware that the liberal media and the Democratic Party in general trying to paint you as a racist? Are you aware of that? I think so, but I think people know better than that. I'm probably the least racist person on earth. Well, I've known you a long time, and I never saw any racism from you. However, when you tweet out a thing, and this bothered me, I got to tell you, you tweeted out that whites killed by blacks, these were statistics you picked up from somewhere, at a rate of 81%. And that's totally wrong. Whites killed by blacks is 15%. Yet you tweeted it was 81%. Now, Bill, I didn't tweet. I retweeted somebody that was supposedly an expert. But you don't want to be. Also a radio show. Why do you want to be in that zone? Hey, Bill, am I going to check every statistic? I get millions and millions of people. You got it. You're a presidential contender. You got to check millions of people. You know what? Fine. But this came out of radio shows and everything else. Oh, come on, radio shows? A retweet. I didn't say. Excuse me. All it was is a retweet. It wasn't from me, and it did. It came out of a radio show and other places because you see all the names. Look, you know I'm looking out for you, right? You know that? Yeah, I'm looking out for you. I look out for every honest politician. I don't care what party they're in. Don't do this. Don't put your name on stuff like this because it makes the other side, it gives them stuff to tell the ill-informed voter that you're a racist. I mean, you just handed them the platter. This was a retweet. I'm sure you're looking out for me. Everybody is, right? Yeah. This was a retweet. This was a retweet. All right, whatever it is. And it came from you sources that are very credible. You shouldn't be tweeting. Don't tweet. Give it up for Lent. Lent is coming soon. Okay, give it up.
Now, looking in the comments, I want to respond to some of the comments. I see in New York Lag Girl, something says never takes accountability. In regards to this, Trump is known for the phrase fake news. And here he is tweeting out fake news and saying, I don't have time to check everything I tweet out. So I just want to understand that a guy who's coined for telling people they send out fake news is admitting he sent out something that's not true and he didn't even have time to verify it. So, but in regards to the comments here, one Punisher said they twisted his stuff, but he did make it too easy for them to do so. This is not twisted. This here, I got on the screen what he actually tweeted out. This is saying USA crime statistics. He's pointing out that 81% of white homicide victims are killed by black people, meaning that if you are white and you are a victim of a homicide, it's almost a certainty that a black person is done in 81%. In reality, the FBI grabbed his statistics when he did this to correct it. It's like 14%, not 81%.
In other words, black people kill blacks, whites kill whites. You tend to kill the people who you are around. Black people are not going all over the country murdering whites, as he alluded to. Now, for folks who are saying this is not racist, how would you respond if someone said, if you are ever the victim of a homicide, chances are it's a black person that's done it. If I was white and I didn't have any black friends or associates, anytime I saw a black person coming down the street, I would either walk across the street to the other side or put my hand on my gun. These statistics make blacks look artificially violent to the point where they're just murdering white people wholesale. For the folks who are saying this is not racist, you're insane. There is nothing positive about African Americans from statistics like this. Now, also notice the graphic that's on the tweet. Look at the character. I don't know if you can see it really well there, but the gun is tilted to the side. He has on a do-rag, and he's clearly a brown person. He's a person of color. Now, the statistics listed here covers blacks, whites, and other. So why would they put a person on here that's black with a gun twisted to the side like that? You're going to tell me this stuff? Now, why would the president, for you guys who are saying, well, it's not him, it's a retweet, bad stats don't make you racist, says 1984, isn't fiction. This isn't a bad stat. This is something that's racist. This is akin to Obama tweeting out Farrakhan quotes and saying, well, it didn't come from me. This graphic obviously came from someone who was trying to do a hit job on African Americans. President Trump is a very successful real estate mogul, businessman, owns a hell of a lot of properties, has done a hell of a lot of deals. President Trump knows the value of putting his name on some shit. His signature alone was worth money for a large portion of his adult life. He knows the value of just tweeting out something on a presidential account. So there's no way this is done by accident. You're going to tell me this guy is so busy, he just sees shit and rebounds it out on a presidential Twitter account? This is intentional. We can talk about HBCUs. We can talk about the jobs numbers in African American communities are going up under Trump. We can talk about some economic good of Trump, and there was plenty. But this shit right here is racist. There's no way around this. There's also, I would also finish up before I go back to the box, by asking a simple question. What is the purpose of a president tweeting this out to begin with? What was the purpose of this? What are you trying to do? I mean, this essentially is telling white people that blacks are killing you wholesale. What is the goal of sending this out other than to alert white people that blacks are super dangerous? How could you not see how any African American or person of color would not be greatly insulted by this? Not only does it paint us horribly wrong, it's not true. It's simply not true. And then last but not least, before I go back to the box, he never apologized for it. So I just would ask, how are African Americans supposed to take this? He tweets out something that is incredibly incorrect, makes us look like wholesale murderers, and he never offers an apology or a reason why it was ever tweeted out to begin with. You notice when Bill O'Reilly's questioning him, he didn't come up with any legitimate reason why he sent this out. He said, I didn't even have time to verify it. How are we supposed to take that? You can tell me anything about vote for me, you ain't black, the crime bill, anything you want on Biden. We can debate that, and some of that stuff you have legitimate concerns over. But this right here is inexcusable. The best counter argument I've heard is, well, it's a retweet. No one is suggesting that this shit right here is not racist. Okay, going back to the comments. You know we wouldn't even be talking about this if you replaced black with white. Yeah, you would. If Obama tweeted this shit out about white people, they would be going insane. This is racist, period. He should have, but what is the context? It didn't fall from the sky. Fancy Prancy. I don't know what the context is, but I try to play devil's advocate on the program. I try to, even though I'm liberal, you see liberals coming on the show like Gangsta Grandma saying, you sound like a right-winger to me. I try to play both sides. I can't come up with a context of why he would tweet this out. I can't come up with any legitimate reason why you would tweet out something that makes the entire black race look bad. If it was, my heroes don't get captured because you're pissed off with John McCain, I could see that. But and even that I don't agree with. But this right here makes the entire African American race look like murderers. I don't see a context for tweeting this out or any reason why. And to this day, he has never explained it. What are we supposed to do with this? Going back to the box, Jerry Williams, 265. I hated to go to the sidetrack, but Jerry, good evening. Jerry, can you hear me? Okay, I don't know if Jerry tuned out, but I'll move. I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand. It's more than irresponsible. Yes, Angel Taker, it is more than irresponsible. It's nefarious. To me, it's aimed at the African American community. Jay Schmo, Guitar Show. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Before we get to the gun thing, I'd like to address this.
Sure.
Sure. I'll tell you, out of ignorance, I guarantee you, probably out of ignorance, he didn't know whether it was right or wrong. He took it because that'd be the truth.
Let's say he thought it was right. Let's say he thought it was correct. Still, what would be the purpose of tweeting this out?
Well, it's political, and it's because at the time, it's all about the police and whatever. I'm not apologizing for him. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. If you're going to run for president, you at least, before you tweet something, ought to verify or even read it. Because even reading it, I would think myself that I would question it just because it just doesn't look right. But I will say, there's a I've seen on the news lately, where they've asked people, just random questions like how much of the population do they believe was black, and they was like 41%. People just don't have a reasonable comprehension of basic things. He probably looked at it.
Yeah, but there's a difference between somebody who dropped out of college in the first semester and the president of the United States. This is, like you said, so let me just ask you this. Based on what you've seen here, do you believe African Americans have a legitimate reason to think he's doing something racist here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fair enough. That's the point I'm trying to make. Go ahead.
And I voted for the man. I didn't even see that. I never seen that, but I don't catch everything.
Fair enough.
But let's get to the gun issue.
Okay.
I'm one that, my cold dead hands. You better believe it.
So you are a Charleston Essen guy. So how do you feel about people saying that you can defend yourself without an AR or a long rifle?
Well, they can say whatever they want. Second Amendment says it differently. And a lot of people say it's time to change that. But as long as it's in the Constitution, that's my right. And I'll hold on to it. So ain't no cop coming to my door taking my gun away if I'm a legal gun owner.
So, okay, fair enough. And I can understand it. So what would happen? Let's say the liberals got in there and they got a 60-seat majority and they were able to roll back Second Amendment rights. Would you then hand it over?
No, because they legally can't do that. That is God given to me by the Constitution.
Wait a minute. You can amend the Constitution. What if the way the founding fathers set it up, there are ways in place to amend those rights you have. Just like the Second Amendment was not originally part, which is why it's called an amendment. They added it on.
But it takes 33 states to say that's okay. You have to change the Constitution.
What if that happened? We know it will never happen, but what if it happened? Would you give the gun up?
If you get the people to change the Constitution, I'll give up my guns.
Okay, fair enough.
But we know that's not going to happen.
Okay, so you're not from my cold dead hands. You will follow the law. You just aren't worried about that law changing.
Yes.
Okay.
I will follow the law.
Go ahead.
But what it comes down to, the problem isn't the guns. You can make causation, just like when you were talking about, the different cultures and different places around the world that have no guns or they don't have the same problems.
Right.
And it is access to guns. So yes, that seems simple to say, yes, it's because we have access to guns, we should get rid of the guns, the problems will go away. That is not the answer. The answer is
how can
why
you stop these mass casualty events in this country without doing something about the guns then?
Mass casualty And have you noticed it's pretty much become in the last 20 years where like the school
Yeah.
problems and things like this. Okay, the reason for that is a society thing. There's a couple parts to this, and that address the gun issues. There's always, as long as we have guns, we're going to have to settle for some
crazy
deaths
people
from guns. That's just, you can't ever stop it all. But with the school things and stuff like this, you ever notice it's like young white males that do a lot of this stuff. And when the mass casualties, I mean, let's face it, there ain't too many girls or others doing it. But what it comes down to, I think a big part of that is we raise our children now with no responsibility to their actions. We give everybody there's always a reason that they act the way they do, and we don't hold them responsible. So we tell every child they're special. They're special.
You talking like the participation trophies?
Yeah, that same kind of idea. And there's no when kids do things wrong now, we don't hold them responsible. We tell them that there's some society reason that is holding them back, and it's not their fault. And that is not the way to do it, because then when they get to a certain age, which is young adults, now they don't have that support system so much anymore. They get a little more freedom.
They're not used to rejection or know how to accept losing. But let me ask it to you this way, because you pointed out that women don't do this, girls don't do this. Girls are also getting the same participation trophy treatment that boys are, yet they're not growing up to be mass casualty event type people. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is it's because it's male. There's testosterone involved. They don't know how to deal with it. Women are not. I mean, we have to face that there is a difference between women and men.
Yeah,
and it's biological. And we have testosterone, and we're inherent. It's inherent in us to be men. And what do men do? Take charge.
Well, it's interesting you said it, because when Hillary Clinton was running, and when you hear female leaders you often hear folks say a woman should never be president and things like that. But if what you're saying is true, where women are far more able to control their emotions, don't have testosterone floating around and shit like that, maybe we need to investigate the notion that it might be better having female leaders. Do you see anything into that?
If all the countries went to female leaders, yeah, I think the world would be a better place. But we know that's not going to happen. And I don't.
Wait a minute, you said if all the countries would have to do it?
Yeah. Hey,
what would be wrong if just the United States had a female leader, but the other countries kept things the way they are? What would be the problem with that?
Well, not necessarily. I don't want to say that, because there's plenty of women that could handle that office, no doubt about it.
Hillary Clinton.
There is no. Well, yeah, she could probably handle the office. There's no doubt about it.
Let me take the MAGA side of it, and I always make it clear. Like I said, I always say it's a MAGA friendly program. The MAGA that I talk to believe, Clinton is, she's hardcore, she's unalived a bunch of people and things like that. Some would argue that's what it takes to be a cold leader.
That's what I said. I think she can handle the office. I just wouldn't want her there myself. There's no doubt she's tough enough to handle it. She's no doubt about it. And that's what I mean. And there's a lot of women that could handle that. And I, most women don't want that job. You know what I mean? There's just the differences in us. Yeah. And whether they can do it or not, we all know that there's capable people out there to do anything. It don't matter if they're men or women, but it is inherent nature. You're going to have more men try to run for that office than women.
Yeah.
But with that said,
I kind of wondered, though, like I said, when you think about the mindset of females, if our country might be better off investigating, letting a woman run for office, letting a woman have that office.
Well, there's times, that we could probably use that. If the right woman, you better believe it. But, there's, whether it's right or wrong, men is always in I know people get mad for me saying this, but men are the show of strength, no matter what, throughout the world, whether that's right or wrong. And I know people will get mad at me for saying that.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying it. We certainly want to be able to show strength, but at the same time, compassion is always also necessary, and men are not good at that.
No, no, men are not. I'm one of them.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I find myself having a hard time. I got two daughters and a wife. Yeah, feeling sometimes it's like, wow, I don't understand that thing. Just being a
yeah.
man, I'm more
Yes.
logic, you know.
Yeah, during some of my racial conversations, for instance, when we're debating racial stuff, I often ask the question like, the Bible in 2022 is the same Bible it was during slavery. And I often ask the question, how the hell could those folks have been reading from the same Bible and thought what they were doing was okay? Which is, I believe, if you had female leaders, a lot of our atrocities throughout American history probably would not have taken place.
I
They would
agree.
have seen, yeah, I do believe that female leaders would have stopped because that's how it stopped in the first place. A lot of the wives were telling the husbands, this is wrong. I mean, you're taking babies out of people's hands and selling them and shit. I mean, the women knew then this is wrong, but the men had all the power and they were doing all of that stuff.
Yes, I agree. I ain't no doubt
So,
about it.
so
But what?
sometimes, yeah, sometimes the testosterone can lead you to doing some bad stuff.
Oh yeah, I've been there myself. Been in jail for it. You know, I've learned, and I've lived. But you
Fair
know,
enough.
I've gotten wiser as I gotten older. But when it comes to the guns, I'm a legal gun owner, and there's going to be knuckleheads no matter what we do. But
Yeah.
we are given that right to protect us against tyrannical government, and that benefits both sides, whether you're left or right, because we don't want either side to become like a dictatorship. You know, everybody worried
But
about
why
Trump
do
becoming a
we,
dictator.
when you think about tyranny, I mean, we've been a country for 250 some odd years or what. Why do we keep this fear mongering that our country is going to become tyrannical? When you look at tyranny around the world, it's not something that happens that much. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of unarmed countries in this world that have never dealt with tyranny. Why do we keep focusing on that? I mean, at some point, does that not look like fear mongering? That's not happening to that degree.
Well, I see it now. I was on a TikTok the other day with a guy from Bolivia, and if you see what's going on in Bolivia right now, that guy there lives in Bolivia. He visits here once a year, but you know, his thing was, hey, do not give up your Second Amendment rights. Stay strong. Don't let the socialism come. You know, because he's seen it happen. You know, he was 80-year-old gentleman. He's seen it happen in his country. The government promised a lot of things and it didn't happen. And now they have no say. You know, they're out marching in the streets. Same thing happening in Brazil right now. You know, they have no way to address, and that's where I would say our Second Amendment, it keeps our government honest to believe that, hey, there is
Yeah,
300 million rifles in
yeah,
this
but
country.
to me, the problem with it is it's like I don't know if the solution is better than the problem. Whereas the Second Amendment prevents tyranny and prevents our government from harming us, but it gives us more power to do it to each other. I had a guy on here a few weeks back who called in from Australia. And he was talking about how they lost their gun rights after a mass casualty event in 1996. Now, I lived in Australia from 2005 to 2010. I was living in Australia. And there was no huge push to get gun rights back. I mean, there's some motorcycle gangs, what they call bikies. There are some guns on the black market floating around in Australia, but it is exceptionally rare to hear people getting shot compared to in the United States. And I asked him, I was like, because he said he used to own guns and he had to give them back. And I asked him, I was like, don't you want your gun rights back? I mean, how do you feel about losing them? And he was like, every time we see on the news about a school that got shot up in America or a supermarket. He was like, we get about every now and then we'll get a politician that runs on a platform of getting guns back to the citizens, and the citizens will strike him down. Every time he said, every time we see something on America where somebody's dying, we don't want to be like that. And he said, we'll see that and we'll use that as commercials. Like, you don't want to be like America. So they look at us as a model of what would happen if they got their gun rights back.
But I think if you look during COVID in the attitudes in Australia after COVID, of probably about a half of that country that was in serious lockdowns and did the things, I think you see a a difference in opinion on that. Now, whether it's
Well, what
enough
are you
yet
gonna do?
to
You're gonna shoot it out over a mask mandate?
over vaccine mandate, they were taking in certain areas. Not all of Australia was the same. And
Okay.
I did a lot. There was a lot of lives and stuff with people from Australia, and I was curious what's going on over there. And they were like taking and mass vaccinating kids in certain areas, and their parents couldn't do nothing about it. They didn't have a choice. And I think when it comes to things like that, you'll get people that are thinking, hey, the government is going corrupt, and they would fight back, but they didn't have the guns to do it.
Well, now
So
that it has happened and we are on the other side of the pandemic, like I said, Australia, they get to vote. It's a democracy. There's no huge push over there, even after experiencing what you're talking about. There's no huge push to get their gun rights. There are some citizens that want the gun rights back, but it's not like in America where the overwhelming majority of voters want gun rights. They still are not there.
yeah, no, they're still not there, but I bet the opinion has raised quite a bit since then.
Yeah, it
And
might be a little bit more, but I mean,
and the
like I
thing
said,
is,
go ahead.
and there's like you brought up Japan earlier, that they have the video games and everything else. They have a completely different society. They hold their they have a whole different philosophy. Their children are much stricter. It's an
I
honor
don't
system.
believe
You just
that.
honor
I
your
don't.
system if
I
you do
mean,
things bad.
I didn't see that. I was there, like I said, for 5 years, and I didn't see where they got the same. To me, their lifestyle is. It's more like living in America in the 50s. But I don't. As far as the corporal punishment on children, now you can't beat your kids over there either. It's very westernized. It feels very similar to America in a lot of aspects, and it's not that much different.
But on their learning basis, they're stricter in their at least the ones that I've interacted with, because I'm always curious of different cultures. It seems like the kids have more respect for their elders, and it's
Not that I've seen. I've seen
no
people in supermarkets talking to their mom, and I remember even telling one girl I was dating over there, like, if that was my kid, I would whip that kid's ass. People cussing their mom out in store. I mean,
in
I seen it different living there. It
in
looks
Japan.
very similar to America.
In Japan.
In Australia.
Oh no, I was saying you were talking about Japan earlier.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about
Yeah,
Australia.
Japan. Australia is probably just the same as here.
Yeah, but
They're
they
pretty
don't have the
westernized.
mass casualty events in Australia.
No, and that I was saying when I call her back, you were talking about the Japan, and they
Okay.
have the same video games and stuff, but it is a completely different society.
Yeah,
But
they all are. I mean,
yes,
Australia and Japan are not the only examples. Most of our allies, most first world countries on this planet do not have the mass casualty events we have, and most of them do not have the gun laws we have. They do not have access to firearms. There's a few countries that do. I think Sweden. There are plenty of guns in Israel because they all have to be in the military. But for the most part, most of Western Europe do not have an armed populace like the United States. Most of Australia, most of New Zealand, they don't have that in most of the first world countries. In fact, when we talk about tyranny, when we talk about what can happen if we give our guns back, we usually are referring to third world countries under dictators. We're not referring to democracies. It's usually, like you mentioned, Venezuela, or or some people might talk about Cuba or some of these horror. But when you talk about first world countries, they're not worried about that.
no, but the reason the first world country, I will say this: we are unique across the world. We have more liberty and more freedoms than anywhere else in the world.
I don't believe that.
I
I've traveled and
truly
I
do.
don't. Other than gun rights, you know how long marijuana, gay marriage, interracial marriage was legal in other countries before it was here. Long marijuana still ain't legal in this country completely. Gay marriage, I mean, that just became legal in 2015. That stuff was legal in other countries decades ago.
Yeah, but you're picking out a few different items. The reason that
What
even
freedoms
them
are you
countries,
talking about? What freedoms are you talking about you have here in America that you don't have other places?
the freedom of speech.
You got freedom of speech just about everywhere that I mentioned in terms of Western Europe and things like that. And I would show you tons of videos of people talking to cops in ways the cops don't like and getting their ass kicked here in the United States. So you talk about freedom of speech, people have been arrested for laughing at police and stuff like that. Just look at the audit videos on YouTube of people not being allowed to have freedom of speech in America.
No, I'm not saying that the people don't break the law, and I see them same audit things, and I think them audit things are showing us. And you will agree. I think, and I think you doing the show, you would probably agree with me that over the last, let's say, 3 years, that you see more people that are on the conservative side coming maybe to the to people that are black to the same ideas. That in some cases, in a lot of cases, that we don't trust the police as much either, even though we may stand for the police. That we also have looked back and said, "Oh yeah, maybe we've been missing a few things here."
Yeah, well,
I think
Trump
you've seen
certainly,
that.
yeah, that certainly has happened a lot under the Trump administration.
Yeah, and see, so there's benefits and negatives to the Second Amendment, but at the same time, there's that amendment's there. We just have to learn to control it. Like I said, it goes back. We got to change the culture to not believe that pointing a gun and doing whatever you're going to do, unaliving people is the solution. And
I
we've
don't.
made it a solution.
That's going to be hard. But I got to move it on, Jay Schmo. That's going to be hard to
Okay.
change the culture. Good talk, though, man.
Yep. See you, bye.
You too. All right. It's only since January 6th. Yeah, I didn't know because throughout the Trump administration, you had obviously Black Lives Matter rioting and protesting everywhere. And yeah, for the most part, MAGA was suggesting that as long as you comply with the law, you won't have any problems. But you're right, after January 6th, all of a sudden, the Trump side of the aisle was like, no, you can't trust these police. They literally turned into NWA overnight. But in regards to that video I played, I don't know, most of you guys are probably gone. We did have a caller because everybody was suggesting that Trump has never said anything racist. I wanted to run that video. If anybody wanted to still talk about that, let me know in the comments as well. I'm going to be wrapping it up soon, but I do have someone in the box. That is the Pucker Up Buttercup. That's a hell of a name. What's going on with the Pucker Up Buttercup? Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. We're talking about defending the Second Amendment with your life. Would you be willing to do that if you thought that the government was trying to infringe on your rights?
Yes.
So, how do you feel about people suggesting, well, no one needs a 100-round drum, nobody needs an AR-15 to defend their family?
It's not about defending our family. It's about like back in 88 when the USSR wanted to invade our country, but decided against it because everybody and their grandma had a weapon.
So you're coming at it from like a Red Dawn angle, that it would be difficult because we have the largest standing army?
I'm coming at it with anybody who wants to take our rights away. Yeah. Anybody.
Okay. Well, in regards to you talking about preventing a full-on invasion, in the year 2022, do you really believe with the technology that's out right now, like in Ukraine, for instance, they're using drones and things like that? You think the weaponry you have at your house would be able to give you a fighting chance against this stuff?
Maybe not, but I know there's a lot of vets that could take out some of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah, but we're talking about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment doesn't provide you with the stuff you're talking about. Like, for instance, in the Ukraine, for instance, they're using weapons that the United States military is giving them to give Russia a fighting chance. But most of that stuff is not just AR-15s and AK-47. They're giving them javelins and tank busting weapons because at the end of the day, regular firearms is not going to stop a full-on invasion.
Okay, but our military can, and our vets can, and people if they want to get on land, if they want to get on our land, we could protect ourselves.
If the if the invaders got on land, such as like what Russia has done to the Ukraine, and they're in the country with tanks and military vehicles roaming around, that's what I'm asking you. You think the stuff that you have at your house could take on a tank?
No, maybe not my house.
Okay. Anybody's house. You think the citizens have enough weapons to fight back tanks in
There
currently
are
high tech
vets that
soldiers?
could disable tanks.
You said what?
There are vets that could disable tanks.
Yeah, but now you're going into military personnel. We're talking about the Second Amendment. You start talking about Army, the actual military. The military has access to everything. I get that. But I'm talking about regular citizens exercising their Second Amendment rights. You think that stuff that they have can stop an invasion force?
Maybe not the citizens,
Okay.
but aren't vets part of the citizens?
No, I don't. I guess the point I'm trying to make is when they created the Second Amendment, for the most part, the weapons that the citizens had was right on par with what the government had. The government was using muskets, they were riding around on horseback, and the citizens could do the same thing. But skipping forward to 2022, where the government now has F-35s, they have drones, unmanned drones, they have
Oh, the same thing
intercontinental
Biden
weapons.
threatened us with?
You
The
said
same
what?
thing Biden threatened us with? The same
Biden
thing
threat
Biden threatened us with?
Biden threatened us with
Yeah,
what? Wait a minute, I don't even know what you're talking about.
with
You're giving yourself you're celebrating before I even understand the point. What did Biden threaten us with?
uh what, nukes and or no, drones and the aircraft.
Biden threatened the American citizens
F-15s.
with Biden threatened the American citizens with drones?
Yeah. Obviously you didn't hear the speech then.
No, I didn't hear the speech. I didn't hear that at all. Biden threatened. Why did he do that? What was he saying he was going to use drones on American citizens for?
Because he's wanting to take our guns. It doesn't matter if it's semi-automatics or not. Most of us has semi-automatics. He wants to take all guns, regardless if it's
Okay,
long rifles or not, regardless if it's ARs or not.
so Biden wants to take our guns, and he gave a speech saying that he was going to use drones on American citizens to do it.
Yes.
You have any clips? I've never heard this before. Where are you getting that from?
He said that
Okay.
he would use drones and F-15s if we turn against the government if they became tyrannical. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to hear that. I've never. Okay.
Punch it up.
I mean,
Did
I'll
Biden
have
did
well.
punch it up? Did Biden say he was going to use F-15s and drones?
Yeah. I
Okay, that caller, I don't know what the hell happened, but that caller dropped out. I don't know if she was blocked or whatever, but I don't ban, censor, or block anyone. I was trying to actually do what she asked and punch it up, and I look up and I think TikTok took her off. Let me see here. But I'm curious, since you said that, did Biden suggest using drones on American people? She said F-15s. We'll go with that. F-15s. I think that what she is talking about is Biden said something to the tune of, you would never be able to stop tyranny because the government could use F-15s, which is what I just said as well. I think that's what she's saying, and people twisted it to say that he was threatening the U.S. government, or U.S. citizens, rather. Video of Joe Biden saying F-15s viewed over 2 million times. Here's something here. Let's see what we can come up with. Video of Joe Biden saying F-15 viewed over 2 million times as president mocked. I don't know if my internet will let me bring it up, but we'll try to see what she's talking about. But I strongly believe it's Biden saying exactly what I just said, which is if the government really wanted to get tyrannical, they have F-15s and things that you would never be able to stop. That's what I believe that he said. At the end of the day, Biden got elected into office, and the Democrats actually did better than expected in the midterms. If he was making statements like this, I don't believe that would have happened. If he was threatening to use F-15s on the citizens. So I think there's more to what she's saying. Biden interpreters, we need you. I don't know. I'm trying to get this commercial out of the way because I want to hear what Newsweek is saying in regards to what she said. It's a 20-second commercial for some strange reason they put in here, but I want to hear what she said here. Let me see. And I'll go back to the box. Appreciate you guys rolling with your boy, but I'm curious to see if there's any validity in what she just stated. Let's see if my internet goes.
Right now, you can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't go out and buy a cannon. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale we use that's used to provide this, and who are they shooting at?
It's my internet is goofing up over here, but it
These
sounds
guys
like
behind me. Folks, look.
Let me rewind.
Think about the rationale we use that's used to provide this, and who are they shooting at? Shooting at these guys behind me. Folks, look. I went to every major school shooting and around in the country since I was a chairman of the Judiciary Committee all the way through as vice president and president. Over 48,000 people died from gunshot wounds in 2021 in the United States of America. Over 26,000 by suicide.
Okay, I'm going to go straight to the bottom. And something is going on with my internet. It does sound exactly what I stated, is that he's saying that if you want to fight tyranny, you're going to need to have F-15s. He's not threatening to use F-15s on the American people. He's saying exactly what I said. You can't stop tyranny with a regular handgun or a rifle. Fishing. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, go ahead.
I have been quarantined for 7 days because of COVID, and I've been all over TikTok, and I've heard some just crazy folks, and I was starting to lose faith in humanity until I stumbled across your lives tonight, man. I just got to thank you because literally, I thought the world was about to end. I mean, there are some crazy people on this app.
I appreciate that.
I don't know that I'm a Republican, I'm conservative, but you're like sane. This was, I mean, seriously, like there are some crazy people on this app, and you're doing a fantastic job having really good conversations, listening to both sides. I don't know where you fall on the political spectrum. I've only seen you for about an hour.
I lean left, but I do agree that MAGA does not get a fair shake when it comes to the media, which is why I always say this is a MAGA-friendly program. Because even though I lean left, I am a huge proponent of free speech, and I defend it here. And as I tell my guests all the time, I'll never ban, block, or censor anyone for their opinion. So I lean left, but yeah, I certainly engage in dialogue with the other side.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know where you live, but if you ran for office in my hometown, I'd vote for you for sure, dude.
Wow. Well, very kind. I'm in the Midwest, but okay, fair enough. So what do you think in regards to what we're discussing here, though, about defending your Second Amendment rights with your life? Particularly, let's say there was nothing blocking you from owning a shotgun or a pistol or a handgun, but you were in ownership of an AR-15 or an AK or some long rifle, and they made those firearms illegal. If it came down to that type of weapon being confiscated from you, would you defend that weapon with your life? Would you prevent law enforcement?
I'm a law-abiding citizen. If somebody shows up at my door and it's the government and we've decided, I mean, I hope and pray that this country never comes to that, because I think if it does, I mean, I think them coming to my door is probably the last place they're going to be. That there will probably be all heck breaking loose in this country if it came to that. And so
Yeah.
for everybody's health and safety, I pray that it never comes. I pray that it never comes to that. But as far as I'm concerned, listen, I'm a law abiding citizen. If they show up at my door to collect my guns, they're going to get it. But I'm just going to tell you, my dad, I mean, I would be fearful. He's going to lock himself in a hole somewhere and shoot it out. And I mean, he's got
Over a
enough
gun.
ammo in there to stay there
Over
for
a
a while.
gun. I just you're gonna like. I never can understand it, folks. 'Cause
I can't either.
I'm agree. Go ahead.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I'm with you as well. If I can have a pistol or a shotgun to defend myself, my family, and hunt to some degree, because
Yeah.
you can hunt to some degree with a handgun or a shotgun as well. I don't see the huge fear over tyranny that a lot of folks keep bringing up, and you're hearing it from a black guy.
Right.
We've been the true victims of tyranny most of America history, and I don't fear that anywhere near as much as some of the folks that were the actual the actual ones committing the tyranny. I don't get it.
I don't either, and I really don't understand why anybody needs a gun that holds 100 rounds. I mean, if you're that bad of a shot, if you're deer hunting and you can't hit it in 99 shots, you probably shouldn't be hunting because you're either blind or
Yeah.
I don't shooting it too far away. I don't know. Like I don't know why you need 100 rounds, but I know that there are
So
people out there, dude. That I mean, it would come to a shootout between them and the government if they come in and try to take their guns.
yeah. I mean, why do you think people fear tyranny so much? Why is there so many Americans and what's supposed to be I had a guy on here talking about tyranny. I think it was the last caller suggesting that America is the most free country on earth, but also speaking that you fear tyranny. I mean, do we believe that guns are the only thing that prevents everything in this country from just becoming diabolical? If you get rid of guns, the leaders are just going to turn all into Adolf and everybody, your neighbor's going to rob. Everything is just bad, and the only thing stopping everybody from turning into monsters is that you got a gun. Is that the way we believe?
Listen, alls I can say is after watching TikTok for the last 7 days, there are some crazy people in this planet. Like, I was starting to wonder, like, the medicine that they gave me if I was hallucinating or something. I mean, some of these people are nuts, and
Yeah.
I, I mean, you can only watch so much soccer. I mean, thank God the World Cup is on while I've got COVID and can't go anywhere. But you can only watch so much soccer before you go crazy. And so, I've just been streaming through these TikTok lives, and there are some political views on here. I don't know. It's
So
going to take people like you who are on the left, who are willing to have legit conversations, not get all bent out of shape, all frustrated and mad, and we're going to have to come across the aisle and work together. Like that's the only way this is going to work and get better. And I mean, I mean, as a black man, racism is still a very real thing in 2022, and until we solve that problem, guns are the least of our worries. I mean, we have a much bigger problem with systemic racism and we can't get the right to understand that. I mean, my friends who are Republicans, if I even bring up a conversation about systemic racism, I'm woke. Well, I don't even know what that means. I'm awake. I wake up every morning, praise God, the sun rises and the sun sets.
why do you think there's so many folks, particularly on the right, because that's generally where you hear it from, but why do you think there's so many folks who believe that systemic racism no longer exists, at least towards minorities? Because there are some people who believe it's towards whites now, but why do you believe folks on the right believe that systemic racism towards minorities no longer exists?
Dude, it's all about fear and loss of power. They feel like they're losing power. And I don't, I mean, it's nothing but a power grab. I mean, my 99-year-old grandma lives with us. She just sold her condo and we're talking Southern Missouri. I mean, they wouldn't
Right.
release the paperwork to the bank because they knew the buyer was black. Like that's the world we
Wow.
still live in. And people don't want to believe that.
How did you find that out? How did you find out that that was the reason? They didn't admit that, did they?
Oh yes, they absolutely. They called my mother-in-law and said, "Hey, we've heard that the buyer is black." And then all of a sudden, once she said, yes, they are, then they didn't want to send the paperwork to the bank. It took like 9 days. My uncle actually had to threaten a lawsuit for them to turn the
Wow.
paperwork over to the bank. I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Color of Law.
No.
But if you haven't read a book, The Color of Law, I definitely recommend it. It's an amazing read. It talks about and it breaks down systemic racism in a way that anybody can understand it when it comes to the housing laws in this country. And unfortunately, it's still a major problem. And man, I
Well,
don't know. I don't have faith that it's going to get any better.
well, shit. Not if that's still happening. No, I never heard. But I mean, wouldn't you be able to sue? Because that's obviously a violation. That's a federal violation of civil rights. I mean, that's clearly discrimination.
Yeah,
I have not heard of anything that is that egregious taking place in 2022. I know that used to happen. That's redlining, but in
it's
this
still
era,
going on in America today.
where was this at? In Missouri? You said, right?
Sykes, yeah, Southern Missouri, Sykes, Missouri.
Wow.
I
Yeah, that's
mean,
terrible.
when I found out, I almost came unglued. And I mean, praise God that the condo sent in the paperwork to the bank, but like that crap is still happening. I live in the Memphis area of Tennessee, and I have two black neighbors, and I have one that just moved in next to me. And the only reason that he moved in here is because when he was looking at the house, we were outside and we would have a friendly conversation with him. Like he was scared to buy a house in a white neighborhood because the white neighbors won't come outside. It's the world we still live in. And until the right wakes up, woke, whatever you want to call it being a Christian, call it being a human being, until we love our brothers and sisters, black, brown, white, purple, I don't care what color they are, the world's just not going to be a better place. It's not going to be a safer place. And the gun control issue is the least of our worry.
Mm. Well said. Well said. Well, I do got to move it on,
Yep.
man. You kind of
Appreciate you,
slowed
brother.
me
You've
down with that.
restored my faith in humanity tonight. I'm serious. I mean, I was starting to think that I lived in a land of a bunch of weirdos, but stumbled across your TikTok and restored my faith in humanity. So take care. Have a great night.
Absolutely a pleasure, man. Come on back
Yep.
through anytime. All right. You have a good night. All right. Looking at the comments, says he's right, says KFL. You know, the South is apparently still alive. As folks say, a lot of folks with the Confederate flag often say the South will rise again. Well, perhaps they have not totally disappeared. That's bad. That's really bad. I never heard of that happening in modern times, but do I believe it? Yeah, I believe it. Because like some of the folks didn't Cal in the comments and folks were saying it's hard to prove, and it is. I've heard some pretty racially charged statements, and everyone denies that they are intolerant. Everyone. You very rarely hear somebody come out and admit that they're, I mean, even when you look at the U.S. politicians over the course of American history, because of slavery and Jim Crow that went on for hundreds of years, there's no denying that most of our politicians were intolerant. Try finding one of them that put it on paper and admitted it. Most of them deny it. So that's why this stuff is often difficult to get a hold of because everybody denies it. Even the Klan, by the way, have statements saying that they don't hate anyone. They're just for the promotion of the white race. That comes from the Klan. They don't have any hate. They're just for the promotion of the white race. So there is so much denial that it can be very difficult, very challenging to ever get it under wraps because everybody that's doing it lies about it. You're not going to find a lot of people that say, "Hello, my name is John and I'm a racist." No, they're going to do what they do, but deny that it's race. Because anything you do, if it's racially charged, you can always find another alternative reason for why you're doing it that it's not racism. You know, whether it's the separation of drinking fountains, where they have their own. It's not like we hate them. They got their own fountains too. I mean, so you can always come up with a way of saying it's not racist. And that's what has happened throughout history. And that's why it is often very difficult to get a hold of. But unfortunately, I do got to end the live, folks. I got to get up early in the morning for work. And as much as I like to keep it going, I appreciate you guys giving me 31,000 likes this evening. 35,000 would have been nice.
But fact of the matter is, you can be anywhere you want to be on this app. And the fact that you're here with me is always an honor. There are plenty of places you can go if you like the echo chamber type deals where you got nothing but liberals bashing right wingers. There are pages for that. If you want to go to a right wing page where everybody's wearing a red hat, there are places to go and they'll bash liberals all day long. Here we maintain civilized dialogue with the other side, and we try to do it from a peaceful, calm aspect. And we often succeed. And I couldn't do that without you guys. So having said that, I just want to say good night. I'll see you guys on the lunch break live tomorrow. 11:30 a.m. Central Time is when I'm generally on. We run for about an hour or so. Usually a bigger crowd. Something about the hours of the day in the afternoon. More people can tune in. So until then, stay politically active, stay safe, and I'll catch you later.
Go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In